Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Cooney?
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Here.
Commissioner Griffin?
Here.
Commissioner Urban?
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott?
Here.
Mayor Hopewell?
Present. For our opening ceremony, we will have an invocation by Pastor Brett Laird of the Calvary Bible Church. I ask that you stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, Pastor.
Good evening. Lord, we come before you tonight to ask your blessing upon this meeting, to ask for wisdom from you, our Creator, and to come before you to thank you for the blessings that you've given to each one of us of life and breath and all of the goodness that you pour out upon us. Lord, we do confess to you our sinfulness, Lord, the ways that we have broken your laws, the way that we have fallen short of your standards. And Lord, I am so thankful for your grace to me. Lord, a sinner that is saved by the sacrifice of Christ on the cross, by his resurrection. Lord, you have been so good to me. I thank you for all of your mercy, grace, and blessings to me. I pray, Lord, that your goodness and your love and your blessings and your grace would be extended to each and every soul in this room, that they would know the love of Christ, that they would worship and honor you. Lord, we pray for our civil servants tonight, that you would give them wisdom, that they would honor you, Lord, that the decisions that they make would be for the good of the people, and Lord, for the flourishing of our city. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, and for the audience, I'm going to make a slight adjustment to the opening ceremony. Items under proclamations, that would be 4A and 4B, I'm going to make those items 3C and 3D. 3C and 3D. So I'd like to first introduce our first guest at item 3A, Kalamazoo Defender's Office presentation, Josh Hilgart, the Executive Director. Mr. Executive Director, welcome this evening. Glad to have you here. And the floor is yours. I'll take a moment. I asked Josh to come forward, come to tonight's meeting because of the work that they're doing at the Defender's Office. It's a new office. Not everyone knows about the work that they are performing at that office. And we also have a number of partnerships that we're working on with them, especially around expungements. And so I thought it'd be nice to have an update, and since this will be my last meeting for business of this body, I thought I'd take a liberty. So there you have it. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, for having me come and talk about our new office. I am Josh Hilgart, and the Kalamazoo Defender is this city's and county's first public defender office. There are a number of public defender offices that are cropping up around Michigan as a result of the ACLU lawsuit that required more funding and better standards for our indigent defense. Kalamazoo Defender represents those accused of a crime in Kalamazoo County who cannot afford an attorney. And this is one of the most vulnerable groups of people within our community. Those who are facing a crime, who are impoverished, are often battling many difficulties outside of their criminal charges. They're battling unstable housing, they're battling mental illness, they're battling poverty, trauma, any number of issues that are collateral to their criminal charges. So when we organized this office, we did it with a mind toward those particular individuals, that group, the often most left out, least considered group, and how can we do more than simply provide an attorney as required by our Sixth Amendment. And so we opened our office with a plan to treat them holistically and to engage the many services here in Kalamazoo that provide help on things outside of the criminal charges, mental health care, housing, all of those issues that I mentioned. How do we get these services which exist in Kalamazoo connected up with our clients so they can get their lives back on track, so they can engage in life in a way that's dignified and delivers the self-respect that every one of us deserves. We've been up and running since July 1st, and as the mayor just said, we have already partnered with the city on addressing the back end of the criminal charges. We had an expungement clinic at the Kalamazoo Public Library to help clear the records of people who have already been convicted so that they can get jobs, they can reunite with their family, all the things that were standing in the way of living a regular life just because they had a charge many years ago. So we are now embarking upon a whole series of expungements in the next year. The turnout there was fabulous. We expunged 52 people's records. And we generated a list of 100 more that we want to come to the next meeting, which is great. So if you want to come by our offices, you're welcome to. They're open to the public. They're on the 3rd floor of the Comerica building. And we are just eager to get underway. And we are also looking to expand into the 2nd floor and provide office space for co-located service providers here in Kalamazoo to have satellite offices so service providers can begin working together as a team to help our clients navigate their many issues so that we can develop plans that are holistic, again, among the providers working together so the clients have a best shot at moving their lives forward. Thank you.
We usually get to ask a couple questions, sir.
Yeah, I apologize.
Thought I mentioned that. I'm going to start just by asking, you didn't necessarily put a call out to us on what, you've got this audience of over 100 people, what do you need from them? Because we're going to be in this room talking about what people need from us. You should challenge your community as to what you need from them. So what could the Defender's Office use from everyone sitting in this room or standing?
Thank you, Mayor.
You betcha.
The best thing that everyone here can do, we will have call-outs for help throughout the months and coming years. But one thing that is consistent and necessary for this community to do is recognize the needs of our clients. Our clients are an ignored community, and incarceration has wreaked trauma upon existing trauma. And I want this community to realize that by lifting up those people and supporting a reduction in incarceration for our clients, and instead showing them love and respect, would go a long way in making them feel like they're part of this community, and they are part of this community. They're our neighbors, our friends, our families, and they are forgotten as criminals once they get convicted across the park. And we need to think of them as human beings who are more in need of what we want, more in need of what we all want than most in the community. So I want you to talk to your friends, I want you to talk to your family, your neighbors, when you get a chance, when the subject comes up, whenever criminal justice is on the topic, I want you to defend and stand up for the dignity of our clients. That is the most important thing you can do.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Urban?
I was waiting for you to remind people that isn't this supposed to save taxpayer money too? Just by the way, kind of in passing.
Yeah, if you want to go to dollars, yes and no.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't up front. Michigan has spent more than it has, but it should, because Michigan was 44th in the nation in spending money on our clients. It was abysmal, and they were getting terrible representation. So more of your state tax dollars, to be quite frank, are going to help support our office. And I believe public dollars for public good is a good thing. In the long run, though, Mr. Urban, it will. It will. Our goal is to reduce recidivism, to take this endless cycle that our clients go through from they get on probation and they violate probation and they, keep skipping back in with small offenses in many cases, and they don't get out because they don't have the resources. And we want to bring them the resources to be able to live a life that they're entitled to. And that will reduce taxes, it'll reduce the burden on our police force. It's gonna, everyone wins with love and compassion.
Commissioner? So, I've let you take a liberty with the clapping, but I'm going to slow that down so we can get to the next item and get the commissioners' questions. And Mr. Executive Director, I'm going to have you talk to us, and that might help us do that. Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you so much, Mayor. So I did have the luxury of taking advantage of getting a tour over at the Kalamazoo Defender's Office that was, I was walked around by awesome ambassador for the program, Josh Hilgard. I really appreciate that. Right across the park here, lovely offices, and it's a big vision, and you've been carrying that vision, and it's only the beginning of the vision. So I appreciate that work also. So there's more to come, and I know you just alluded to it a little bit tonight, but I think it's a transformational undertaking, and I appreciate that you're doing that work in partnership with the city. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that, and thank you for coming over.
Any other questions? Well, thanks for humoring me tonight. Truly, I'm proud of, I've known you for a while, and I'm proud to serve on the Pretty Lake Camp Board with you, but I know your passion for this work, and being able to give you a spotlight is the least I can do as I exit out of this role because of the work you do. It's not about your spotlight, it's about those individuals that you work and serve every single day. So, brother, I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you more, and I guess I need to come over and see what I can do to help as well, and I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, again, I thank you for the personal liberty. I have another group that I wanted to highlight tonight. I've been so proud of their work, and we've been on this journey together, and that's the Momentum Urban Alliance program, and I believe Luke is here, and I never say Luke's name right, last name, so he's going to get to say it so I don't slaughter. I just call him Luke K. But this guy has been doing some amazing work with his team in this community, and I think it takes a moment to, we should take a moment to hear a little bit about that. Good evening, my friend.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. It's Josh took a little bit more time than I thought we had, so I'm going to copy him and probably take a little bit of extra time as well. But I wanted to, we were talking today about how far this program has come. And I was remembering almost 4.5 years ago when we first initially started the Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo work. And we were talking about creating opportunities for individuals in our community that were returning from incarceration or who had multiple barriers of employment. And it made me smile to think about how far the city has come in that amount of time, because when we initially started, we had a talented workforce that we were developing. We had individuals that had done the hard work to prove themselves that they were ready for employment. And we had some employers that were hiring, but many of them, the first question was, what kind of criminal background are they working with? How recent were their charges? Are they violent? Are they dangerous? Which, those are questions that are focused on something that that individual, for the most part, can't change, and that's something that happened in the past. When we fast forward 4.5 years, the number one question that we get today is not what crime was committed or what were they convicted for. The number one question that we're getting today is, when are they going to be able to be hired? How many graduates can we hire? Can we hire the whole class? The environment and the ecosystem of employers in Kalamazoo has fundamentally shifted in the last 4.5 years from one that was restrictive for people with criminal backgrounds to now one that in large part is very accepting of individuals with criminal backgrounds and starting to see their talent and their potential as an incredible workforce in our city. And we still have a long way to go. We have high unemployment in some of our neighborhoods. We still have a lot of individuals with criminal backgrounds that struggle to find jobs. The work is not done, but the program has expanded from offering about 60 seats a year to now operating 3 different sites. We've done our main site in the Edison neighborhood. We're operating out of the Douglas on the north side. We recently finished a pilot program with the county jail where we actually had individuals that were released from incarceration on work release to come to our program and then go back to the jail at night. And I just found out this week that we have an individual that's still currently incarcerated that just landed a job, and so he's on work release, going out and working during the day and coming back. The earlier that we can start that process, the better off we're going to be in helping our individuals return from incarceration and become the productive members of society that we know that they can be.
I'm going to start this.
Now, for those unfamiliar with the program, I have some statistics just so you know who we're dealing with. 85% of the people that we encounter are fully unemployed when we meet them. 83% have a criminal background. 85% of them have struggled with substance abuse. 77% come from generational poverty. 70% are single parents. 27% are on probation. And 28% are homeless at the time that we meet them. Now, this is a portion of the population that, for a large part, as a society, we have pushed to the side and said, we don't need you. What we're learning through this program is that they are incredibly valuable and they're meeting the workforce demands on the city. So that population, times the 240 students that have graduated from Momentum since its inception, have created over a $6 million economic impact to the positive to Kalamazoo in the form of wages earned, taxes paid, and a reduction in incarceration costs. Because what we know about recidivism is that it's high in the state of Michigan. It's 30%. What we know is if you get a job within a year, it drops. And if you go through Momentum, it drops even further. We're proud to say that the recidivism rate for individuals that have graduated our program is less than 3%. For the lifetime of the program. So additionally, we partnered with the city and LISC and KNHS and the Douglas Community Association last year to start financial literacy programs in the form of an FOC out of the Douglas Community Center. And we've
FOC?
FOC.
What's
Financial Opportunity Collaborative. And this is kind of a three-stooled approach to address poverty. Urban Alliance and the Momentum program handles the job readiness portion and the relationship part, and then KNHS handles the financial coaching. We've had 145 individuals engage in some form of financial literacy training. But the big thing that I saw in the numbers that made me smile is in this past year, we've had 10 individuals that started a process going from, you heard the stats, homeless, previously incarcerated in poverty that have purchased houses, purchased cars, saved up money to afford market rate housing, all those things made available. When the right tools are there, the individuals that we're serving have the desire, they have the passion, they have the talent. It's just we have to do some of our work on our end to make sure that we're ready and that we have the services that respect them and respect where they come from, no judgment, and create a path forward for them. So, in essence, we're still going strong. We're going to continue to go strong. We just started terms 45 and 46 of the Momentum program, and we're still seeing double the number of people applying for the program than we have spots available.
Questions, commissioners? So again, I'm going to, Commissioner Griffin.
Yeah, great work, first of all, so let me say that. I do
Thank
have
you.
a question. Do you all have any challenges with the individuals looking for housing or securing housing?
Housing is the number one issue that we face. In fact, we have individuals that have returned from incarceration. They've been reunited with their kids. They have well-paying jobs, and they can either not find housing, or the housing that they find isn't available to them because of criminal convictions that they've had, criminal past that they've had. So housing is the number one barrier after they graduate and find employment.
So again, similar to the Defender's Office, what do you need? You said we heard housing, but what do you need from us?
From us, I can turn around, but I know I'm going to get an applause and I'm going to get in trouble. We need to hold up our end of the deal. In this country, we agreed to a rule of law. We agreed to laws where you break them and you go away. And then we have individuals that are coming back, and we're not holding up our end. They paid whatever price that they said that they were supposed to, we said that they were supposed to pay. And we come back and they continue to be marginalized, they continue to be pushed aside. And it's not just affecting them, because I think in large part we think it's just affecting them. It's affecting the next generation too. We were in a meeting earlier today together, and I pulled out the statistic that there's 250,000 kids in the state of Michigan that have at least one parent incarcerated. Now, those parents are going to be coming back, and how we treat the individuals coming back does not just affect them, it's going to affect the next generation. And if we want to stop this cycle, we have to welcome them back and say, as individuals, just like how I think we would want to be treated, we don't want to be treated by the worst day of our lives. That's not who we are. That's something that happened. People can change, people can grow. And I believe that if we want to be the city, we need to be the city that's known for second chances. We need to say we're a city of second chances, where if you're down on your luck, where if you've hit a few bumps along the road, we're going to welcome you back. We have jobs, we have houses, we have opportunities. We're going to reserve judgment, and we're going to welcome you and say, you can change and we can change too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate the work. Keep it going. Commissioner, sometimes in this room, folks think the work only happens during this night that we meet every 2 weeks, and that's not the case. It's partnerships and collaborations that we have. The city can't do it alone. We can't do everything, and that's why we partner, and we use our resources such as the Foundation for Excellence to support that work. That financial empowerment that are on the north side that is affecting lives every day, that's part of your work. It is. Working with the Defender's Office on expungement and diving in deep in regards to people that are returning to our community, and programs like People of Change that the good commissioner is working. That's your work. Though we do great things up here on these Monday nights, we got amazing people we get to work with every single day to get the job done. And with that, we have a few proclamations talking about amazing people. I am going to go to the podium, and I think Commissioner Anderson has the first one, and Commissioner Griffin has the second.
Thank you, Mayor. Would Michael Klieg's Executive Director and any representatives from out front who may be in the House come down, please? I'm just going to make a comment here before I get into the proclamation. And I think it's auspicious to note that not only is there a proclamation that we are reading into the record tonight, but this is a 10-year anniversary celebration. It is this year, here we go, been 10 years since the One Kalamazoo Human Rights Ordinance was passed here. It was in 2009, November. And here we are, I think recognizing that challenges continue, but also things have changed. And I appreciate that we can balance those things at the same time. The proclamation is Transgender Day of Remembrance, November 20th, 2019. Whereas Outfront Kalamazoo, formerly known as the Kalamazoo Gay and Lesbian Resource Center, KGLRC, has served the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community of Southwest Michigan for the past 32 years. And whereas during that time, the LGBT community has grown in the face of adversity to become a more safe, welcome, and visible part of the citizenry of the city of Kalamazoo. And whereas the residents of Kalamazoo have actively shown support to their LGBT neighbors through overwhelming passage of City Ordinance 1856 at the ballot box in 2009, which protects citizens from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, and public accommodations. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance has been a long-standing tradition in our local LGBT communities, and on November 20th of each year, we come together as a community to honor the memory of those whose lives were lost in acts of anti-transgender prejudice and violence. And whereas compared to their peers, transgender youths are 6 to 9 times more likely to attempt suicide. And 1 in every transgender adults will be evicted or refused housing due to their gender identity. And whereas Outfront Kalamazoo continues to provide transgender and gender non-conforming community members with access to resources necessary to all people in need in order to become happy, healthy, and productive members of society. And whereas full equality for the LGBT community is an ongoing work, and the City of Kalamazoo, in partnership with local groups, is committed to continue the efforts to end LGBT homelessness, teen suicide, and bullying in our community. And whereas the City of Kalamazoo and Outfront Kalamazoo celebrates the diversity of all sexual orientations and gender identities, and the City of Kalamazoo continues its dedication in being a welcoming city to all citizens, and a community where everyone can love where they work, live, and play. Now therefore, I, David Anderson, on behalf of the 52nd City Commission, and Bobby J. Hopewell, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, do hereby proclaim November 20th, 2019 to be Transgender Day of Remembrance in Kalamazoo, and encourage all citizens to support the efforts of Outfront Kalamazoo in strengthening our community, and to honor and value all human lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be able to accept this on behalf of our Executive Director, Denise Miller, today, who unfortunately couldn't be here. We're very grateful for this proclamation. Trans Day of Remembrance, as you said, is meant to honor the memory and the courage of our transgender and gender nonconforming brothers, sisters, and siblings whom we have lost to violence every year. Every day, trans and gender nonconforming people are at risk for losing their lives due to hate crimes and other such discriminatory acts. And at Outfront, we are dedicated to making Kalamazoo a safe place for people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and expressions. And we believe that visibility is incredibly important in making progress. So thank you for helping us bring more visibility to the trans and gender nonconforming individuals in Kalamazoo and beyond. Thank you so much.
We're good, we're good.
Commissioners, before the next proclamation is presented, I'm pretty excited that these are the last two proclamations that I will have the honor of signing as our mayor, one recognizing our trans community, and then this one for an organization that's been around for 100 years that has done so much for Kalamazoo, and that's the Douglas Community Association, and Commissioner Patrice Griffin will be reading this proclamation.
This time, I ask that Mr. Tony Patterson or anyone else from the Douglas Community Center step forward. How you doing? Whereas, founded in 1919 and named in honor of civil rights leader Frederick Douglass, the Douglas Community Association sought to address the social, recreational, and cultural needs of African American soldiers stationed at Fort Custer and their families returning to segregated Kalamazoo from World War I. And whereas, since its early history, the Douglas Community Association has served residents of the Northside neighborhood as well as the greater Kalamazoo community as a center for social, recreational, and community development activities. And whereas, during the civil rights movement of the 1960s and 1970s, the Douglas Community Association shifted its focus from mostly recreational programming to an emphasis on social change. National and regional civil rights leaders would often use the Douglas Community Association as their headquarters while in Kalamazoo, and the center became the base of operations for planning local activism. And whereas the Douglas Community Association continues to be an invaluable voice to the African American community with its strong stance on issues like social justice, poverty, housing, employment, education, and the development of youth and family. And whereas today, the Douglas Community Association and its partner organizations continue the work to strengthen youth, adults, and families of the Northside neighborhood and the greater Kalamazoo community by providing a variety of social, recreational, cultural, employment, and financial programming services and support. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 52nd City Commission, on behalf of Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell of the City of Kalamazoo, we here do recognize the 100th anniversary of the Douglas Community Association and thank them for their positive impact in our community and applaud and support their continued efforts to strengthen our community.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor. I'm receiving this on behalf of our great director, Mr. Sid Ellis. And I'd just like to take this moment to encourage each and every one of you to come pay us a visit at the Douglas. I cannot tell you the stuff that we do.
So just come down when you ever get a chance, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I will give you a tour that will make you want to come back and help us. Thank you. I'm talking to everybody. 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 Same thing, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, 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 yes.
Two proclamations dealing with equality and equity. I love that. I know you do. This is a good night. We are now at item, we're still in the opening ceremony. We have a presentation on Imagine Kalamazoo 2025. It just says city staff. Madam Manager?
We'll have Director Kick come up and introduce the presentation.
Good evening, Director Kick.
Good evening, Mayor Hopewell, Vice Mayor Knott, Commissioners. So tonight I wanted to call to your attention October 17th, 2017. It was the date that Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 became the strategic vision and the master plan for the city of Kalamazoo. And being this 2-year anniversary, we wanted to give you all a little bit of a treat. We mean both literal treats and also treats by showing you what we have accomplished. Because this is the first time, I'm guessing, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have intentionally accomplished goals from a strategic plan and from a master plan. And I highlight intentional because it's the hard work that y'all have been doing with us. Mayor Hopewell, Commissioner Cooney, you're stepping off of this dais, and you have approved so much of what we're going to share with you tonight. And we are going to see you on the other side of engagement when you become citizens in this work with us, because it is ongoing and it is in progress. And we've heard some of the awesome highlights that Mayor Hopewell brought to your attention, but there's so much more work to do. And we thought celebrating at this 20% point in our journey is significant, because there are many times where we don't sit back and go, wow, we are actually in the middle of something transformational. And that's what we wanted to bring to your attention and be able to say, we are being transformational. We're being transformational and we're being intentional. This has been so beyond transactions of what the work we do with our community. And even though sometimes it feels like our everyday work, staff's roles have been transformed. Staff's responsibilities have been transformed by doing this work of Imagine Kalamazoo. And so while we say happy birthday to Imagine Kalamazoo on this date, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a preface. We're going to have a little bit of a look forward, and we're going to have a little bit of a look back. So I've invited several staff to come and highlight their work, because while I was city planner when this crazy journey started with all of you, all of these staff have created their work plans around this work. And that's significant. And as you will see, as the alignment of all of our work has come under this umbrella of Imagine Kalamazoo. So I'm just going to kind of go down the row here and introduce Kevin Ford, our Shared Prosperity Coordinator. He's going to present something tonight. Director Sean Fletcher, Parks and Rec. City Planner Christina Anderson. I'm going to recognize our Chief, Carrie Ann Thomas. Antonio Mitchell, our Development Coordinator from Community Planning and Economic Development. Jamie McCarthy, another Development Coordinator from Community Planning and Economic Development. Director James Baker of Public Services. Community Investment Manager, Dorla Bonner, Katie Riley, our neighborhood activator. There are so many other, I'm going to call our backup dancers as well, which are huge in all of this work. Our Chief Financial Officer, Steve Vicenzi, Tim Du Bois, our CIO, our Chief Information Officer, and I would be completely remiss. Our hot pink graphics and amazingness that comes from Neil Conway and Amanda Cockcroft. And Amanda Cockcroft started off as one of our AmeriCorps employees. And we found her so valuable during our journey through Imagine Kalamazoo. And she continues to tell the story. She continues to get information out to the community in the most awesome, engaging ways. Amanda is a rock star in all of this communication. This communication could not happen without the team of Neil and Amanda. And we have heard from you all many, many times. Tell the story, and we can't do it without them. So here we go with the choreography. You know my backup dancers. You know who's all a part of this. And so let me bring Christina Anderson up. And we're going to give you a little look back, and then we're going to start looking forward.
So we can't start this conversation, we can't talk about how Kalamazoo acts today and moving forward without the look back of where we were starting 2 years ago. And it all started with a community conversation. And it was from this conversation that guided our work and created our strategic vision, created the master plan that we then embodied in our public participation plan, which leads us through any engagement, any outreach that we do today, from the smallest project to the biggest plan. And it's these 4,000 voices that participated in the master plan, up from 400 in 2010, that shaped the vision, shaped the work. It's this ribbon of continuous conversation that leads us through everything that we do today, from the smallest project through all of our plans. And plans are really important. And we plan to act, and so it's really important to think about all of the work that we've done in that arena.
And so we've started with 145 actions that y'all adopted when we adopted the master plan. And as you can see, we have these each broken down into what's been completed, what's ongoing, and what's in progress. Now, ongoing doesn't sound like we're going to hit much of a target. But I want you to know, when we think of something that's ongoing, it was a project where it was a program that you asked us to start because of Imagine Kalamazoo. Think of things like the Youth Mobility Fund, Super Rec. They're not things that we ever really want to end. But if we achieve something through this master plan, it will live throughout the life of this master plan, and it will be ongoing, and it will be additive. And so we'll be able to tell you metrics like, oh, well, we started at this number and we've increased to this number. You know, affordable housing, those kinds of things will always be ongoing tasks that we have, but they're things that we're measuring, and we're making sure that we're getting them right. So our first goal that we're going to tell you about, because what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through those big strategic goals that we adopted through the strategic vision, and we're going to take you through each one of them and give you a highlight.
So we can't talk about complete neighborhoods without the neighborhood activator, Katie Riley, coming up here too. But I want to say that this is the best first goal to start with, because complete neighborhoods supports and is impacted by every other strategic vision goal that was developed through Imagine Kalamazoo. In the master plan, we talked about complete neighborhoods, meaning access to parks, access to daily needs closer to home, access to healthy food, choices in transportation where you live, choices of housing options where you live, and the opportunity to have community schools and community centers in your neighborhood. And you know, we work on achieving complete neighborhoods in everything we do, whether it is thinking about how land use and transportation work together and how we're going to redesign our streets, plug for Wednesday night's meeting at the Foundry at 6:30 p.m., where we're going to talk about redesigning our streets. More on that a little bit later. to our zoning code, which helps sets the table and removes, updating our zoning code allows us to remove the barriers that exist for that good development, that new development, that infill development that's going to help us reach some of our housing goals and our access to parks and other great places.
So neighborhood plans, I could spend a whole day talking about neighborhood plans, so I'll try to keep it short and to the point. So far, we have 5 neighborhood plans that have been completed. Those neighborhoods would be North Side, Oakwood, Edison, East Side, and Vine. And we've got 3 more that are in progress already, so that's West Main Hill, Parkview, and Oakland Winchell. And those are all chugging along, and that's not including neighborhoods that are wanting to start the discussions for maybe next year, maybe the following year. But it's all very exciting. And that's created a whole new set of goals and actions that build on all of the goals and actions that are in the master plan.
And it's important because each one of the neighborhood plans, when they're done, come before the Plan Commission, come before this body for adoption as part of our master plan, part of our everyday work.
And so just to highlight a couple of the different types of actions and the different ways that neighborhoods have taken their plans, and either the city has used it as a great tool, or also equally as important, neighborhoods are really running with these plans as soon as they're done, and it's, they're not waiting for us to get some of these visions achieved. First example is the Aging Gracefully campus in the north side. So NACD has development going on that supports a couple of the goals in the neighborhood plan, including senior housing, affordable housing, neighborhood-owned businesses, you name it, that campus is working toward achieving that goal. And NACD has been a real powerhouse in working on that project. Another neighborhood goal has been, and this is in a lot of neighborhoods, focusing on access to healthy food. And so in East Side, an already existing program was the Fresh Food Initiative, which is a food bank delivery that happens during the summer. And because of the neighborhood plan and goals related to education about nutrition and making some of these, fresh vegetables that you can get a little less intimidating, they partnered with KVCC, and through that partnership, we're able to provide recipe cards at food pickup. And residents that have participated in that program or received the recipe cards have expressed a lot of gratitude for it. And it's been a great partnership that's going to continue for years to come. So it's been a really exciting, another example of what neighborhood plans have been able to do.
And so next on the list is Connected City, and Director Baker.
Thank you very much. Majority of the work in public services is focused on core services and operational programs.
Mr. Director, would you introduce yourself?
Yes. Good evening, Your Honor, City Commission. My name is Director Baker, and I'm the Public Services Director at the City of Kalamazoo. I'm going to be talking about Connected City, mainly focus of transportation, walking, biking, and multiple uses of transportation. As I was saying, the Public Services Department, for the most part, our bread and butter activities, or day jobs, if you will, are the operation of water services throughout the entire county, wastewater services for the entire county, everyday programs that touch folks in our communities, day-to-day programs such as recycling, delivery, drinking water, receiving of wastewater, solid waste services. We also operate the street network, performing maintenance and critical work on that, as well as keeping all the signals going and everything else. We've been very fortunate here lately, fortunate in that we've been given an opportunity to start planning and start investing in this community. Resources had been tight in the past, as well as extremely limited, keeping our focus operationally. However, thanks to FFE, thanks to Imagine Kalamazoo and
FFE.
Foundation for Excellence.
Thank you.
As well as the community is now focused on goals and achievements, we're able to start to address some of these long-standing issues that have been underinvested. This year, we're celebrating completion of 8 miles of sidewalk repairs and replacements. We also have program funding for next year as well. That's Anthony Ladd, our Assistant City Engineer. He's from Mississippi. He worked for MDOT, Your Honor. That stands for Mississippi Department of Transportation.
Okay. So be careful. My mama's from Mississippi, so I wouldn't be here.
We also had a wonderful opportunity that's been about, 3 or 4 years in the making, where we took state trunk line routes through the city of Kalamazoo, and approximately 3 or 4 years ago started working on planning environmental linkage study, really planning these streets and looking at them through the perspective of all transportation users, not just cars. With that, we started to expand upon ways to improve transportation, ways to improve mobility, and started working with, at the time, the Michigan Department of Transportation. We became very fortunate in a program to transfer ownership of those streets over to the city of Kalamazoo. And that work is occurring into the future, and we have a lot of neighborhood and community impact or input centered around that. In fact, I think we have a plug for a meeting Wednesday night to help further that input into our design. We've also increased the number of local streets paved. We've been able to pave upwards of 12 local miles of local streets, and we've got another big list next year. We're still utilizing the same investment. We're spending $1 million annually on pavement of local streets, but we're doing it now entirely with City of Kalamazoo crews. Our crews are able to pave streets at a much cheaper price point than contractors, and primarily that's due to our crews taking that profit margin back. We don't work for profit, we just work for cost. Yep. And I'm going to invite Jamie McCarthy up to help me out with environmental responsibility.
Good evening. Jamie McCarthy, and I'm here with the Community Planning and Economic Development Department. I just wanted to help us reflect on and celebrate the progress we've made toward our environmental sustainability and responsibility goals. And I think there's just a few outstanding things that we should think about, things that we've accomplished this year. So City Commission passed this year a new ordinance to protect our natural features, and so that set into place comprehensive rules for redevelopment and restoration that helps protect things that are important to the community, like our woodlands, our wetlands, and our waterways. We're treating more stormwater, keeping those environmental contaminants on the land and out of our waterways. In economic development, we've adopted a first time an incentives policy that encourages and rewards green building of our commercial buildings. Getting that certification can help earn you those incentives that we offer. And Public Services has done just a number of different programs and practices that really help us get at that environmental responsibility goal. They're doing things like closing in on the goal of planting 500 new trees in the city. Just this year, wastewater treatment plant is collaborating with Consumers Energy, reducing our electrical use at the plant when we have peak demand throughout other parts of the city. So we're being that partner helping to not only reduce energy, but make sure that the energy grid's there for everyone to be able to use when they need it. And then we're also seeing over 1,000 lead water service lines replaced this year. That's protecting public health and environmental health. And so those are all really important things that we've been able to accomplish. And now we're working and focusing on developing a plan that's dedicated to sustainability and climate action, one that focuses on community resiliency and a just transition for everyone to a carbon neutral future. And we're working with the Environmental Concerns Committee as our public body and hoping to bring that forward to you guys in 2020. Yeah, and then in September, the end of September, we had community members come out with, along with Western Michigan University, the Office for Sustainability, helped us celebrate sustainability, and it also was an opportunity for us to ask the public to join us in giving their input into sustainability. What are their concerns for the future? What are their priorities? Where do they want to see us working together as a community? And so I would encourage anybody who wants to give some input to visit imaginekalamazoo.com. We have a community sustainability survey out right now, hoping to, again, collect that information, understand what's important to the community, and then start, building a plan, some actions and strategies that we can use to collectively, citywide, become a more sustainable and resilient Kalamazoo.
Continuing our discussion in public services on lead replacement, a lot of our work focuses on and touches many of the community goals. We look at environmental responsibility and safe community, and a lot of those goals overlap each other. And a lot of that's true throughout a lot of our goals here in the city, is that they're not independent goals, independent of each other. A lot of them overlap. And so I wanted to take some time to show and focus where we've been for lead service replacements, where we are now, and where we plan to go in the future. I certainly want to recognize and honor the work that the City of Kalamazoo has done in the past. Starting in 1993, the city was very proactive and one of the first communities to start a lead service replacement program. This was really advantageous for several reasons, namely the entire public services staff, who now has decades of experience in leaded water service replacements, decades of experience that allows our staff to go out there and tackle big jobs and tackle big replacements. We really got focused on lead service replacements and created a 20-year plan that we started to execute in 2017. 2017 was the first year where we performed over 500 lead service replacements. We continued that progress in 2018 with 558 lead service line replacements, and our goal this year is to exceed those numbers. We also are working with the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. That's a fund that's offered through the Michigan Department of Energy, Great Lakes, and Environment that gives funding resources to communities with a focus of water quality. City of Kalamazoo was ranked for that program, and that program will be something that we'll be bringing you with our 2020 budget. In that program, we're planning to replace 1,350 lead service lines next year, which would include all of the East Side neighborhood, as well as Eastwood in Kalamazoo Township. If you see here, we've got to date, including our proposed work in 2020, well over 5,000 lead service line replacements. And that's work that goes all the way back to the great folks here in Kalamazoo that started this program back in 1993. And with that, we've got just over 2,500 of known lead service lines replaced in the future to replace. And then we also have 5,000 undefined services, which means that they potentially could be lead. They could also be some other materials as well. So stay tuned to that number as we're out digging and finding stuff. That number, we continually correct that, and we continue to change that and update that. So we're very confident that we'll not only meet the 20-year goal, but we'll exceed our timeline, and that will be done much sooner than 20 years. Thank you.
I apologize for missing my incredible staff member, Dwayne Powell, our neighborhood support entrepreneurial genius, to come and help Antonio Mitchell talk about our economic vitality.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll jump right in. Super excited about one of our first projects. Through Imagine Kalamazoo, we found out many things.
Introduce yourself.
Introduce myself. My name is Dwayne Powell Jr. I'm the Neighborhood Business Coordinator for the city. Thank you. Through Imagine Kalamazoo and all the great work that staff was able to collect so much information, one of the things that we found out that there was a gap in support services for small businesses. Oftentimes, when people do not have enough equity or enough credit or enough experience or history or whatever it may be, oftentimes when you walk into a bank, you can hear that no, and that could be pretty disheartening. And what we wanted to do was create a fund that could play that gap, and what we call it is the Business Development Fund. Business Development Fund has, as you see here in this picture, our good guy, Duante Taylor, who just a few weeks ago, we did this ribbon cutting. Duante Taylor is by way of Detroit and is a Western graduate. He's finishing his master's here in Kalamazoo and has planted here, and we're trying to keep him here. And I always say one of the best ways to keep young people here is to help them start a business, because they just can't uproot that business. So Duante Taylor is a great example of that. He has started a youth entertainment business and was looking for a loan and was turned down by the banks and reached out to me, and we were able to give him his first loan. And he went from 10 employees now to just under 20. And we're super excited about the potential of that project. I'll go to the next slide. Do you want me to talk about business fund at all, or just talk about business fund? All right, so a little bit more details about the Business Development Fund. Just to give a little bit of results, we've been working diligently. I believe our first funding came out in March, so we're really about 7 months on this work. So in that time, we were able to touch about 99 people, and we were able to assist 16 people with technical assistance grants, so that could be lawyer fees, it could be marketing, or one of the big things we know in supporting a small business will be accounting, right? So helping small businesses get their finances in order. Another grant that we're able to support our local small businesses is with the Small Business Grant, and we've supported in our pipeline about 41 businesses. And again, that is oftentimes equipment. That could be helping a startup get all the things that they may need. Giving a quick example, I had a gentleman who's been doing great work in our community, but had never filed for his taxes. So that was able to fund his business and him continue to get that foundation strong. So 3 years from now from line, we're not dealing with a much bigger issue. So again, being able to play that gap with these grants. The next thing, in partnership with LIST, Local Initiative Support Corporation, I did better this time. We partnered with LIST to do facade grants in our urban core, so basically North Side, East Side, and Edison. And in partnership with LIST, we funded 16 facade grants for our urban core businesses that are going on throughout the city as we speak, and will be going on also in the spring as it's getting cold, and oftentimes we can't work on the outside, but they'll be going into the spring, and we hope to do more next year. We've also supported one business with another one in our pipeline with a GAP grant. So again, oftentimes businesses don't have enough equity when they're trying to get a loan, and we're able to supply a grant up to $25,000 to close that loan. And we were able to do that for Dormouse Theater right in our Portage corridor. So super excited about that potentials of that project. So overall, we supported in our pipeline about 99 businesses, and including the facade grant partnership with LIST, we're at an overall investment of a little over $500,000. So super excited about the beginning of this. And this is just the beginning. We're super excited about 2020.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. My name is Antonio Mitchell. I'm Development Project Coordinator for City of Kalamazoo and our Community Development Department and Economic Development Department. And as you can see on our screen, in our backyard of this building right here at City Hall, you have 400 Rose Street apartment development complex, which is going to be 133 apartments for the City of Kalamazoo right in our downtown. And if you've been paying attention to our downtown, there are multiple cranes going up in development in the downtown, thanks to your diligence and working with us and working with our downtown authority and developers in the community. And
when I came back to the city, one of the key factors was that I was seeing growth and development. There we go. Oops. And in that process, when I was at the city before, I'm a second-time employee here, worked with, at the time, Commissioner Hopewell and Commissioner Cooney. We've been knowing each other for years, and we've been friends. We've been working on stuff on the side, from prison reentry to neighborhood development, from the grocery store development. And I was like, are we going to have a resurgence? And we're at that point. We have a new hotel coming downtown. We have the Exchange, projects going on. We have other apartments that are being developed. We have other projects that are going on downtown. People don't talk enough about, we have a medical school in our downtown by Western. We have KVCC that has their nursing program that's been developed downtown, and they have other programs that are downtown. We have Bronson that's building a cancer center downtown. This is all under your watch. This is all under your eyes and guidance as our mayor and commissioners that has made a difference in this community. And there's more to come. We as staff have been very proud of not only working for you, but have been proud of the actions that you've been taking to not only engage our developers, but more importantly, as Dwayne has stated, have engaged our neighborhoods in trying to get our residents involved in the economic resurgence that we have in our city. We are taking pride in not only engaging our citizens, but we, as our mayor and our commissioners, have been going to community meetings, have been talking to people from the north side to the east side, to the Edison, to Vine, about how they can be involved. The importance of this community that I have loved for many years is how we try to get everyone connected, from our big developers to our small developers. So we are excited as staff to see not only this development, but we're even more excited that we get to work with trying to create brand new developers in our community that are right in our neighborhoods. So our corridor development plans will be coming to you, and you'll be seeing all this new development that we have on, as I say, on deck that is coming. But we want to hopefully help you take pictures of the change that is happening not only in our downtown but our community in a whole. And we want to thank the mayor, and I definitely want to thank Commissioner Cooney for not only being friends for many years, but for what all you've done for us in engaging our community. So thank you.
I just wanted Dwayne to highlight one other thing, as Antonio has painted this awesome picture of development, but we all know that building trades and the skilled trades have been really difficult. Dwayne Powell and Dorla Bonner, and also with Bob McNutt, have been doing some incredible work, and I just want Dwayne to talk to you about that for a second.
So I want to first say thank you to our mayor and our city commissioners for jumping at the bit to support this project. The project I'm speaking of is last December had a meeting with some community folks and skilled tradesmen, minority skilled tradesmen. And we wanted to engage, Dorla Bonner had the idea to engage with the minority skilled tradesmen to find out what their barriers are, what needs they may have, and how could we assist them. That initial conversation actually has grown to become a monthly meeting in which we began to engage our largest developers in our city, AVB and the Hemmans, Plaza Corp, you name it, all the large developers, because we've heard that thing over and over again that they needed labor, right? And they needed subcontractors, and they wanted to diversify their labor pool. We also heard from our minority skilled tradesmen that we want an opportunity, we want a shot. So we kind of began to play matchmaker in each of these monthly meetings. At the same time, we also learned that many of our minority skilled tradesmen were not licensed, and we're looking for the opportunity to do so. So the city, along with, in partnership with KVCC and in partnership with the HBA, Home Builders Association, have supported our minority school tradesmen to begin to get prepared to take their tests. So they are now in the third and final stage, which will be to take their test. So they've been took the 60-hour online course. They have now, many of them are getting their approval letters as we speak, and in the next week here, we'll be helping to also fund them to get their, hopefully, they got to pass the test, but we've been supporting them with tutors and whatever we can as a staff, as a community, to get their license. And we're super excited about that work, especially the continued work that we'll be doing with the lead abatement program. So super excited about impacting the underserved, giving them opportunity to grow their businesses and create jobs here in Kalamazoo. So I want to say thank you to our City Commission. Many of you have been able to attend those meetings, and all of you have supported that work. So I want to say thank you, Mayor, who was the first one to, and Commissioner Ayer were the first ones to run to those meetings and support us in every way. So I want to say thank you for all your support and your time and your effort. Thank you.
Good evening, Sean Fletcher, Director of Parks and Recreation. I'm going to talk real quickly about Super Rec, which, if you don't know what that is a free summer program for youth that happens at designated sites throughout our community. That program served on average about 40 kids per day, so about 200 kids in total each day. We have, much like camp counselors for our paid camp, we have camp counselors at each site that offer supervision. They have a lot of fun with the kids. We focus on at least 20 minutes of reading per day. We serve 2 meals per day. And as I said, in 2018, we had 4 sites. We've expanded to 5. Great stuff happening in that program. We take the kids to the pool. Some of those kids have never been to the pool. They didn't know we had a pool in Kalamazoo, so we're exposing them to different things throughout our Parks and Recreation system. One of the things that I think always demonstrates our impact is when we get the opportunity to hear from some of our residents that have the opportunity to have their kid in one of our programs. And 2 years ago, one of our counselors had the opportunity to talk to a parent whose child was attending the Super Rec program in Oakwood. And that mom shared with our camp counselor that she was so thankful for this free program because it allowed her to pay her electric bill. She didn't have to pay for daycare. She was able to then go ahead and pay her electric bill for that month on time. It was the first time she had paid her electric bill on time for quite a while. So that just goes to show you that these programs are not only beneficial to our youth, but they're helping our families as well. The other thing I wanted to do real quickly is most people in this room understand that our mayor has a passion for youth, and he has been very helpful to me, and he's also pushed us to do as much as we can. And I certainly appreciate that, and I will tell you that our youth team will miss you. I know we push back sometimes, but we will miss you, sir, but you're not getting away. We'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Ford. I am the coordinator for Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo. Want to highlight a couple things that we have going on. As you can see, beautiful ladies in this picture. This is part of the funding that you all approved for SPK earlier this year. This is a patient care academy that is happening on the north side at NACD. It's designed to have this cohort and another cohort prepare for CNA certification at the state level to enter in the healthcare field. In addition to being able to fund this program on the north side, we also were able to fund Luke's program, Momentum, in part, that he spoke about earlier. The People of Change in Edison neighborhood, which is a centralized reentry hub for folks returning from incarceration, in addition to volunteer income tax assistance to help low-income families access tax credits. In addition, on the east side for youth, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math academy, a STEAM academy. And so we couldn't do this without your support. We couldn't do it without the support of our SBK organizing committee, our goal team chairs. And I want to highlight that shared prosperity is about our community working together. As Josh and Luke mentioned earlier, I myself have 2 felonies, so I am living proof of second chances and what shared prosperity should embody. So I want to thank you all for supporting shared prosperity work. I want to thank all our colleagues in CPED and staff and the community. So NACD is doing their part. Luke and Momentum, their program, is doing their part. Everybody is doing their part to help families move along and continuum of prosperity. So I want to thank you all for that.
I'm going to invite Sean to come back up and Katie Riley to talk about some public art and parks improvements. All right, I got elected. I'm going to talk about Bates Alley. So Bates Alley was done in partnership with the Kalamazoo Downtown Partnership. We worked on a patronicity crowdfunding opportunity with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, as well as all the business owners and residents that live behind East Michigan to activate the space. And what's really exciting is, and this is a report that's going to be coming out tomorrow, like over 2,500 people have visited the space, and all the vintage clothing pop-ups, the Beats on Bates, all the really fun activities that the Kalamazoo Downtown Partnership has worked to pop up in this space and activate it. You want to really know how Bates Alley came about? Was during Imagine Kalamazoo, we kept hearing that people don't like to work or to walk on East Michigan. So they used all of the different alleyways to traverse. The lighting was better, there was no crazy traffic, they didn't feel like they were gonna be, it was too noisy or anything like that. And it was actually just safer, and everybody takes the alleys. And so this alley activation projects has started to come together. And so there's another one coming on Whiskey Alley, Exchange Alley. It's why we upgraded Farmers Alley, because the alleys were truly the most comfortable spaces for people to walk and bike.
All right. Katie Riley, Neighborhood Activator. I don't think I introduced myself the first time. And so from neighborhood plans, again, a lot of neighborhood plans have identified the need for public art and highlighting a neighborhood's culture and local artists. These first 2 examples are found in the Vine commercial area. The first is a mural done directly by the Vine Neighborhood Association, and it's kind of surrealist celebration of the spirit of the neighborhood. It's a vine porch. It's really cool. I would check it out. And the next one is next to Read and Write Kalamazoo, and it's an explosion of letters and colors and numbers and everything that relates to Read and Write Kalamazoo. And then the next one that was just recently finished is in the Edison neighborhood in Washington Square on Howard's Party Store that highlights the history of the Washington Square and the Edison neighborhood. And then lastly, there's been an ongoing project to wrap utility boxes with community photos. So if you've been around downtown, you've probably seen a couple of disposable cameras around where you can take some photos. And working with Anna in the picture, she's been wrapping utility boxes with photos that the community has taken.
I believe, Sean Fletcher, Director of Parks and Recreation, and I believe Anna also was the person that painted Kick Pool, which is now a work of art if you haven't been by. It's very colorful. If Fran Dwight is taking pictures of it, it must be good, and she's taken some great photos of that pool. The picture here is of Reed Street Park, which is about to be completed. Complete transformation of that park. If you had been in it previously, there were 4 things, I believe. A small playground, piece of equipment, a grill, a park rules sign, and a trash can. As you can see, we've added just a little bit to that park, completely transformed it. We kind of followed the blueprint of Imagine Kalamazoo. We had a very interested group, a small group, but very interested group of people in what that park would be transformed into. It's probably currently, I shouldn't say it's my favorite, but currently it's my favorite. It's a great example of how the community can come together and create something great. I did want to mention too, real quickly, Reed Street, or Davis Street Skate Plaza, which was another great example of community input in developing an amenity in one of our parks. A gentleman by the name of Dave Engerer was very instrumental. He came to us and said, hey, people are skating in the street. Kids are skating in the street. It's dangerous. You know, can we do something in Davis Street? And we had the opportunity to work with probably about 15 skaters in ages from youth, young guys, little skaters, all the way up to 50-year-old dads who still skate. So we worked with those folks, and they were so instrumental in helping us create that skate plaza in Davis. You can go by there probably this weekend. I would imagine there were 30 to 40 people on that skate plaza at any given time during the weekend. And it's just a gem for us right now. People are using it, and it's a safer alternative than people skating in the street. So, thank you.
So for our last goal, while this is not a master plan goal, it was a strategic vision goal. And strength through diversity is one of our strongest goals for engagement and inclusive opportunities for the city. So as Imagine Kalamazoo started and really set the model and the benchmark for strength through diversity, it's a thread that we weave through everything that we do. So I'm going to have Dorla Bonner, our Community Investment Manager, and Christina Anderson, our City Planner, talk about the engagement activities that have been ongoing since Imagine Kalamazoo was adopted.
Good evening, Dorla Bonner, Community Investment Manager. I'll be really brief. If you've listened to everything that we've done and all of the things we're doing, you will see a thread of inclusiveness and diversity. So we're really trying to make it our just how we do business and not a program. It's just how we want to do business. I think there was one picture, but uh-oh. Did I do it right? No? Okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to let somebody else do it. There you go. So on that bottom slide, that is a group of our contractors that we've been working with, and I won't go into it because Dwayne already talked about it, so I don't have to talk about it. But one thing I do want to say that we realize that even internally we need to do work, and we were blessed as part of a grant we received last year, 2018, 2017, it's all a blur now, from the Government Alliance for Race and Equity. We also received a grant from the Michigan Department of Civil Rights to do equity training internally for leadership, and that's starting this year. Because in order for us to really be inclusive and equitable, we have to have the same language, so we're all thinking the same way about the same work. So that's one of the other things that's quiet, but Michigan Department of Civil Rights said specifically, we want you to train your city leadership, your management, all the way up to the commissioners. So we will all start off together on how we do this work.
Since October of 2017, when we approved the master plan, there have been thousands of discussions that have happened to shape the work that we've all been talking about tonight. Whether it's for the neighborhood plans or for the implementation of those plans, including projects like updating the on-street parking in the Vine neighborhood, redoing the zoning ordinance, and whether it is, we always make sure that we are out there with the community, having the conversations, and trying to be consistent in where we provide information. So a couple of people have already mentioned it tonight. Our website, imaginekalamazoo.com, includes, is our portal where you can always go for information on upcoming meetings, where you can always get information on projects, and it's our common space. It's where we're also telling our story. So you'll see that there's a story link on that page that talks about the work that's been done over the last 2 years. And I can't wait to be in front of you again in 2 years' time to talk about our next round of activities and how we reached further into the community, had more conversations, reached more people that have not yet been at the table to help shape our work. And you know, that's going to start on Wednesday with a meeting, which you may not know about, for the street redesign. 6:30 to 8:30 open house. It's going to happen at 600 East Michigan. You can get information about this project on imaginekalamazoo.com, and everyone is invited to discuss the future of our street network. And so with that, we'll bring Rebecca back up. Yeah.
So now you've heard what we've done and what we've been up to for the last couple years. So what is on our docket for 2020 and beyond? So I have asked our amazing, again, communication staff to help prepare this entire report because, again, I wanted to show you awesome pictures and not a bunch of slides with bullet points. And I wanted all of my staff to be able to speak to you about their experiences and have all the other directors be able to talk about what their staff and their work is. So each one of you have been given a report tonight that helps talk about the percentages of these goals and the numbers of projects that we're working on, and that will be online, available for everyone tomorrow. But as we focus on 2020 projects and the budget that y'all are about to pass for us at the end of this year, many of the ongoing projects that we've talked about are going to be on those line items. They're going to be in that capital improvements plan. They're going to be part of what we have scored for our priority-based budgeting within all of these 9 strategic goals that you have seen. We've got many of our neighborhood plans. These are the projects that are coming forward in 2020. Again, those neighborhood plans are adopted into the master plan, so it just becomes a thicker and thicker document as each one of those neighborhood plans gets passed, and those things begin to get onto our work plate and onto our budgets. Now, one thing that I haven't talked a lot about tonight would be affordable housing. And it's because that's basically a session of its own, but I do want to give you a snapshot of so much of the work that you've done and all of the payment in lieu of taxes, ordinances, and resolutions that I've brought forward to you. Sometimes those projects, I have to bring that resolution to you 2 and 3 times before the Michigan State Housing Development Authority does award those tax credits. And so in 2020 and 2021, we're going to see more than 200 new affordable housing units. And when I mean affordable housing units, I mean those that our city incomes can actually afford. I'm not talking about workforce housing. I'm not talking about that 80 percentile range. I'm talking about the 60% of our city incomes and below. Jamie McCarthy briefly mentioned it when she said that in part of our policy for city incentives, tax abatements, grants, purchase of land, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority recently passed an incentive policy that when you have affordable housing in your development and you can meet 60% of city incomes and below, we will discount the price of the land by the number of affordable units. So if that's city-owned land and it was worth $1,000 and that developer had 50% of their units that were 60% of that area median income and below, then we would discount that piece of land to $500. You go deeper, we'll go deeper.
So that's one part of what the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority has been doing, because they own 56 properties. And so it's really important that they take control of how we're doing our incentives. And additionally, those incentive policies align with the strategic vision values that we have discussed with you. And that is something that I will be bringing to the future commission in terms of a citywide incentives policy that may also be known as a community benefits agreement policy and ordinance as well. So I look forward to doing that work with you also. So I say all of this to say we'll be back. We look forward to talking to you more about all of the work that staff is doing and the work you're guiding us to do as well. So please, during your admin committees and small groups, if there are moments that staff has presented tonight that you want to know more about, please invite us to come and talk to you and give us update and give you updates about the work that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director. Commissioners, you have questions at all? Vice Mayor?
Yes, for Director Kick. Just quickly, what's the timeline on the discussion for the community benefits agreements?
So currently, I had started the work earlier this summer, and I am working with a consultant who's assisting me with some outreach in Ypsilanti, Grand Rapids, and Detroit right now to reach out both to people who have participated in their community benefits agreements as well as developers, so citizens and developers. I'm kind of waiting for that to wrap up, which will be done at the end of November. So I believe I'll be bringing you a draft in December or January for consideration. Yes. I also don't want to forget there's cake to celebrate and refreshments to celebrate this Imagine Kalamazoo birthday. And it's in the atrium.
Other questions, Commissioners? Thank you, Madam Director. Thank you for the report. You know, I've said this for umpteen years that I've been up here, that we don't tell our story enough, and we know that the story is always ongoing. And what I liked about this was that we know that we have not reached the pinnacle of where we need to be. We haven't. We've got lots of work to do, but if I've learned anything through my programs at Western Michigan University, you do look at where you've been, where you're going, and where you've arrived, and find moments with your folks that are working with you to do this work, to celebrate that, but to always push them further. And you heard Director Fletcher say that, you know, I love what they do, but I'm always at them, okay, what's next? And, you know, that yes and they're always in that mode, and you guys are always thinking about that. I know you do it all the time. So we know that this is just a milestone report, and it's no kid different than any of our, I don't have children, but your children's progress reports. You celebrate when they're doing well, you remind them where you need to be doing better, and that you got to keep on going and talking about what's next. And we have a lot of opportunity with what's next with the Foundation for Excellence and continuing the Imagine Kalamazoo engagements. And so the opportunity for everyone in the room, because tonight has been me giving you assignments, which I like, because I haven't done that, is to get engaged with the process. So the director will be here after the meeting. So don't just leave when your item's done. Stay and talk to her about, hey, I didn't see this, or have you engaged with this person, or why aren't we doing this, or consider that. Actually, you can say it to all the staff, because engagement is a part of all of their work. So these 10 people will be here after the meeting. They might have frosting on their face or something, but they will be here after the meeting, and you should talk to them about what's been done and what you'd like to see, and invite them to your groups that you'd like to have them talk to, because Imagine Kalamazoo is an ongoing process. So if you don't know if you were part of that 4,000 voices, or if some folks weren't, then let's figure out how to engage those individuals in different ways and work with our staff to do that. Thank you, staff, for the work, and do more, and will be great. So thank you very much. Madam Manager, you have any communications this evening? Oh, excuse me, no. Commissioners, you have the agenda before you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, anyone in the audience wanting to comment on items under F, that's our consent agenda, that item will need to be moved to our regular agenda. If you have an item under F, the consent agenda, please indicate at this time. Oh, we do have one add, I'm sorry. Madam Manager.
Mayor, we would like to add an 8th item under the consent agenda to recommend your adoption of a resolution to approve the application from the Kalamazoo Civic Theater for a new Class C liquor license.
Commissioners, that was left off. I think it was a late request. The Civic is having a special event, and so we wanted to make sure we supported them if we could, if you so choose, in this as you handle the consent agenda. Hearing no other changes, the communications?
No communication, Mayor.
Okay, item E1, I'll now open a public hearing to receive comments on Mall Maintenance Resolution Number 4 for the purpose of approving the 2018 Kalamazoo Mall Sidewalk Maintenance Assessment at a per front foot cost of $14,756. Anyone wanting to speak on this item, please step forward. You will have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within our city. Hearing no one, Commissioners, requested action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion? Moved by Vice Mayor Knott, supported by Commissioner Cunningham. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
I have a question. You read the number as $14,756. I think it's $14.76 per
You are
per
exactly
foot.
right.
And I just wanted to get that right before we give away the store.
Yeah, with that correction, Commissioners, yeah, I totally missed that. $14.7 whatever, $14.756
Per foot.
per foot, per front foot. That is the item. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Vice Mayor Knott?
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, now.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Must be my last meeting or something. The consent agenda, please, Madam Manager.
Mayor, on the consent agenda, item number 1, requesting approval of a 19-month contract extension with Constellation New Energy Gas Division, LLC, for natural gas to be used to heat various city facilities in the amount of $750,000. Item number 2 is the approval of a 3-year contract with Elham Engineering Company for liquid phosphate in the amount of $1,084,081.44. Item number 3 is approval of a support services agreement with the Central County Transportation Authority for a 3-year period beginning October 1st, 2019 and ending on September 30th, 2022 in the amount of $466,153 for the first year and increasing each subsequent year. Item number 4 is approval of a loan to the Downtown Economic Growth Authority in the amount of $300,000, which will allow the DAGA to continue with planned operations. Item number 5 is approval of a $275,000 grant to the Kalamazoo Eastside Neighborhood Association to be used to purchase 3 properties in support of a mixed-use project. Item number 6 is approval and acceptance of an easement with Consumers Energy for water main planned to be installed as part of the 6th Street South Tank and Water Main Extension Project. Item number 7 is approval of a purchase agreement with the Kalamazoo County Land Bank for the acquisition of 640 Lake Street for the Farmers Market Project and Bank Street Realignment Plan in the amount of $9,157 plus closing costs. Item number 8 is a recommendation to adopt a resolution recommending approval of the application of the Kalamazoo Civic Theater for a new Class C liquor license issued under the provisions of MCL 436.152A1B to be located at 329 South Park Street within the Downtown Development District. That concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Commissioners requested actions, a motion to approve items 1 through 7 and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson.
Isn't there? We added one.
That was
Oh,
under the consent.
yep, that was added.
Okay, I guess I'm just,
The requested action is to approve the consent agenda.
yeah,
Is
the
there a
whole
motion?
agenda, yes.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Cooney. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Knott?
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Madam Manager, you have a report this evening?
No report, Mayor.
Mr. Attorney, you have a report this evening? No, Your Honor. Madam Clerk, you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Your Honor, I do. Just wanted to note, today is the close of registration for the November 5th election. Starting tomorrow, anyone who wishes to register to vote, including through Election Day, must register in person at their local clerk's office and provide proof of residency. Documents that will be accepted for residency verification include a Michigan driver's license or personal ID card, a current utility bill, a current bank statement, paycheck, government check, or other government document. Items must include the applicant's name and current address. Electronic copies of these documents will be accepted. Absentee ballots for the November 5th election are available now. Voters can request to have their ballot mailed to them by Friday, November 1st. Or they can request a ballot in person at their local clerk's office now through 4 p.m. on Monday, November 4th. For city residents, the clerk's office is located here at City Hall. The Kalamazoo City Clerk's office will be open on Saturday, November 2nd from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. for voter registration and absentee ballots. All voted absentee ballots must be returned to the city clerk's office no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are now at policy items. Adoption of a resolution to declare a climate emergency. Madam Manager? Is there a report? No report. Is there a report this evening?
We do have a staff report.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Jamie McCarthy, Development Project Coordinator. I'm here to give both an update on sustainability planning in general and then also speak to the declaration in front of you. The plan we've been working on is being developed by a team of city staff, community members, and university and nonprofit partners. And I'm pleased that the city's Environmental Concerns Committee has come forward as the public body that will be overseeing and vetting this plan with staff and partners over the next several months. Recently, the committee helped us set some overarching vision and goals for this initiative, which includes developing a plan that will create a more sustainable and green and healthy city, one that increases our community resiliency and biodiversity, focused on shared prosperity, and dedicated to a just transition to a carbon-neutral future that we see here in Kalamazoo. The plan will seek to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. That way, we'll be doing our part here in Kalamazoo and for Kalamazoo. In September, we partnered with WMU, their Office for Sustainability. We held that celebration and community sustainability meeting that I mentioned earlier and started to gather public input to better understand the community's concerns and priorities and allowing those to help us develop this plan. And again, I encourage everyone to give their input by taking the community sustainability survey available at imaginekalamazoo.com. And we hope to have a plan in front of you in early 2020 coming from the ECC, the Environmental Concerns Committee, for all of you to take a look at and help us move forward with those actions. So as we started this process of engaging the community and starting to really dive into the goals of a sustainability plan, the ECC has in front of you a declaration of a climate crisis, which reflects the concerns of the community. It was a coalition of organizations that have come together concerned about climate and concerned about the well-being of Kalamazoo, and they brought this forward to the ECC, asking them to consider that the city of Kalamazoo make a similar declaration of a climate emergency. We're seeing these emergencies being declared at local units of government such as Kalamazoo across the country, and it was folks from the community who felt like we needed to publicly state that this is a priority to us, that we understand that there are impacts that our community is seeing and feeling from climate change. And so what I'll commend the ECC members for doing is taking all of that input over a couple of meetings, and then also looking at some of the other work that you all have done, some of the declarations that have been made in the past, looking at the specific needs of Kalamazoo, and crafting a declaration that really reflects the mission and vision and values of Kalamazoo, and with a focus of making an impact here in our community, and not just a blanket declaration that we understand there's issues impending with climate change.
Questions, Commissioners? Thank you. Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Sign in before or after would be helpful. And the sign-in sheet is by the flags. Good evening.
Good evening. Denise Keel. I sadly live just over the line in Kalamazoo Township. I'm here tonight as a representative of the newly formed Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. I want to thank the Environmental Concerns Committee, I think Chair Paul Manstrom might be here someplace, for working with the community and our group on this resolution that is before you tonight. Thank you, Commissioners, for putting this on the agenda and moving this forward. Moreover, as has been iterated many times tonight, thank you so much for the prior and ongoing climate and sustainability work that you have championed and that our amazing city staff has championed over many years and continues to move forward. I just want to briefly address who we, the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, are and why we need a climate emergency. The Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition consists of more than 1,000 members from over 25 educational, youth, faith, peace, environmental, and climate action organizations. We are motivated by the scientific case for urgent action on climate, and we are inspired by, believe it or not, a young Swedish schoolgirl. Her name is Greta Thunberg. She began climate striking, walking out of school on Fridays to demand action to address global warming. Our mission is to unite these existing groups in our local Kalamazoo area, share resources and information to sustain high levels of citizen mobilization to address the climate crisis. The people wearing mostly green, some of them forgot, in this room tonight, are all part of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition because they understand that climate math and they understand that it is brutal. We've already spent over 70% of our carbon budget, and we must take action now. A formal declaration of climate emergency by this City Commission tonight will serve to further catalyze the support of those 1,000 people to help the city achieve its broad goals in environmental stewardship in that strategic plan. This resolution, however, is also for all the people not in this room tonight. A formal declaration of climate emergency will provide the necessary leadership to address the threat that our entire community faces, particularly to those citizens who may not yet have any idea of the threat we face, or may find themselves vulnerable and impacted, but perhaps unable to participate or take individual action. Those citizens should expect us, those in this room who do know what's going on and can act, to tell the truth about the emergency we face and respond to this crisis. Our coalition is diverse in age and groups, not as diverse as we would like. We are working on that. And there are a few folks from the climate organizations, small business interests, students, the youth group, and peace activists that would like to make brief comments to you tonight on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please. And before you make your comments, I just want to remind everyone, earlier we allowed applause because that's typically what happens during the opening ceremony. But we want to get through everyone's comments tonight. So please, if you want to do that, that's fine. But please let's let folks speak, and so we can keep moving because we'll have a few people. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Your Honor, and City Commissioners. My name is Paul Manstrom. I'm a longtime Kalamazoo resident, and I currently serve as chair of the city's Environmental Concerns Committee. As you are aware, the resolution before you today came by way of the ECC, and I'm here this evening to reaffirm our committee's recommendation that the commissioners adopt this resolution. All 11 Kalamazoo residents that make up the membership of the ECC remain strongly in favor of our recommendation, and we appreciate your willingness to consider such an action. I want to assure you that in the process of making this recommendation, the ECC took its responsibility to advise the commissioners on environmental issues affecting the city very seriously. In early August, we received a letter from the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition requesting that the ECC evaluate the possibility of recommending this type of action to the Commission. At our August meeting, we heard testimony, some of which you will hear for yourselves tonight, in this very room about the nature of the crisis we are facing and the need for the City of Kalamazoo to recognize this as a true emergency. The ECC members agreed that with the assessment that we are facing a climate crisis and voted unanimously to collaborate with the coalition to draft a resolution declaring an emergency. Over the next month, ECC members actively participated in the drafting and editing of the resolution now under consideration. Much of the language in the resolution is original and was crafted by either ECC or coalition members. The ECC then spent the better part of our September meeting going over the draft resolution line by line, editing it until we voted unanimously to approve the final draft and send it to you with a favorable recommendation. There are two major dimensions to this resolution. If approved, it will serve as a notice to state, federal, and global policymakers that our city has joined with over 1,000 other municipalities and regional governments worldwide in recognizing the gravity of the situation and the need to take action. More importantly, and what the committee strived to express in the resolution, is a call to foster an environment that is conducive to local action. While this certainly is a global issue, many of the solutions to both mitigate and, when necessary, adapt to the effects of climate change will quite probably come from innovations and initiatives that are incubated at the local level. While the City Commission's direct responsibilities are limited to serving the best interests of citizens, businesses, and institutions that reside within the city limits, any realistic chance at making local progress in both mitigating this emergency and helping our citizens adapt to the effects of climate change already upon us must involve regional cooperation that will include the whole of Kalamazoo County and possibly more. Such a regional effort will depend on the support and, most importantly, the leadership of the City of Kalamazoo. The ECC urges the commissioners to adopt this resolution as the first step in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Beth Bradburn, and I live in Kalamazoo. I'm a member of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition.
You can put them back down if you need to. Yeah.
I'm a member of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition and also of Extinction Rebellion. And I'm also an associate professor of English at Western. And it's from that perspective that I would like to speak right now. I would like to address any concern you may have that declaring a climate emergency is just a frivolous exercise in words. No one knows better than an English professor just how meaningless words can be. But emergency isn't just a word, it's a story. And it doesn't take much reflection to realize that stories have great meaning. They shape how we relate to other people, the world around us, and ourselves. Stories shape how we understand the past and imagine the future, and they shape how we put our beliefs and values into action. Emergency is the kind of story that tells us what to do. Attend carefully to a possibly complex situation. Prioritize those who are most vulnerable. Put aside small conflicts in the service of a greater good. Emergency is a scary word, but it does not mean panic. It means pay attention and then deliberately put your resources towards saving life and health. Individuals facing emergencies in the moment are called to do these things automatically. A city like Kalamazoo can call for them formally by declaring a climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Renz. I'm a resident of Kalamazoo, a member of the Kalamazoo Sustainability Team, and also of Citizens Climate Lobby. 3 months ago, I spoke before the commission, after which some of you endorsed the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. Thank you very much for that action, that important climate action. What I did not tell you that night is that I'm an addict. I'm addicted to fossil fuels. Now, I suspect I'm not the only addict in this room, but I have contributed throughout my lifetime to emissions of greenhouse gases that imperil the lives of those who are far less responsible than I am for the climate crisis we're facing now. To break my addiction, I need help. I need your help. You've provided some help to start with through your support of the city's climate action plan that Jamie talked about earlier tonight. We need to develop and implement that plan carefully but quickly. It will provide the political will that we need to sustain the action to implement and fund that plan. We cannot now waste time. For in Kalamazoo, there are residents who already are experiencing the events, the impacts that scientists tell us will only grow worse over time. For the people of Kalamazoo who lacked a warm home to go to during the recent polar vortex, or those who had no place to cool off during this summer's extreme heat wave. For those whose asthma is impacted by the coal-generated electricity we use in this city. For those whose diseases are impacted by mosquitoes or ticks that are surviving in this warmer weather. For those who've lost a home or a business to the flooding in this city. And for all of us who are concerned about the future that we are leaving for our own and our neighbors' children and grandchildren, there is an emergency, a climate emergency. So when the city calls it by its name, it will justify the actions that we need to take to end our addiction to fossil fuels and to provide the hope that we need as we move to mitigate climate change and to increase the resilience of our community and its environment. So I urge you to call this what it is, an emergency, and then to respond to it with the kind of unified and unrelenting response that it requires. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, please. Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell, Vice Mayor Knott, and all the commissioners. Really happy to be here. Really proud to stand with all these people that are here appealing to your senses. These are smart people who are saying, we do have an emergency. There is things going on here. Excuse me, my name is Mark Lee. I am a local business owner, Better World Builders. I am a board member on the Southwest Michigan Sustainable Business Forum. I serve on some other boards, the Building Authority for Kalamazoo County, the Code Commission for the state of Michigan. But today I'm here as simply a proud Kalamazoo citizen. And the things that I've learned in my time here in 28 years, 30 years that I've been in Kalamazoo, living in the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo leads. We lead with the Kalamazoo Promise. Tonight there was so many wonderful things that was projected out by Imagine 25, and in just the 2 short years that they've been going, they have done some tremendous things to advance our city in phenomenal ways. So I do believe there is a crisis. We do have a climate crisis, and that's a situation we have to deal with. But I believe we could turn this into something that we could be recognized for, not just being another city that's saying, hey, yep, there is a climate crisis going on. But I believe that Kalamazoo can be known for becoming the most sustainable city in the state of Michigan. Some of the ways that I think we could do this is one, supporting this idea that there is actually an emergency, recognize it for what it is. Two, supporting Imagine 2025. I think the strategy that's being laid out and put forward are great pieces. Another thing is to simply recognize, of the 29,000 households that we have in our city, 90% of them were built before 1999. Of that, when they were built before 1999, they really were not built to current energy standards. So a lot of these houses, they waste between 20 to 60% of their energy. And I'm not talking through windows, but it's actually through poor insulation, through draftiness in the house, other air leaks in the house. So what I'd like to challenge the commission is to initiate a challenge among our 22 different neighborhoods throughout our city, and to make those houses and make those businesses in those different community areas, put a challenge to each one of those community areas. Hey, I live in the Douglas neighborhood. Our area dropped their energy use by 22%. Oh, I live in the Winchell neighborhood. Our area dropped it by 18%. I believe that by having a focus in what we can do and what is possible, and putting our community efforts behind it, that we actually can spin this to make this Kalamazoo the most sustainable city in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Tyler Booth, and I've been a Kalamazoo resident my whole life, and I currently go to Western Michigan University. I'm a KCCC member through a nonprofit in the area called Kalamazoo Nonviolent Opponents of War. We have heard time and time again the science of the climate crisis. We are worse off than scientists ever thought we would be, and an extreme response should have happened years ago. Many in my generation, including myself, have extreme fear, anxiety, and even nightmares regarding the climate crisis and what it entails for the future. We see the lack of seriousness from institutions of all kinds. We can tell that those in power do not care about us, as policymakers keep pushing us in the wrong direction, or they propose half measures. We need change on every level of government, but it all starts with local government taking the first steps and letting those in our world know that we care about having a safe planet for our future generations. Let's prove that the local government of Kalamazoo cares about its people and the planet. 285 million people around the world are already represented by local governments that have declared a climate emergency. Kalamazoo should join and encourage more cities to take the climate crisis seriously, and eventually it will build into substantial change in policy. If you are intending on voting against declaring a climate emergency, realize what you're telling my generation. You're telling us that we are not worth your time. You're telling us that it is preferable to not consider the climate crisis an emergency, despite the fact that scientists have told us that billions will suffer because of it, including many in our own Kalamazoo community that have already suffered from it. Therefore, please vote for a declaration of a climate emergency. My generation needs you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Chloe Carlson. I'm a student at Kalamazoo Central High School, and I'm also part of the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. So today, I'm not here to throw facts at you. I feel like that's redundant. You're all very intelligent and experienced individuals, and you all know the facts. You've seen the stats about what the climate crisis is going to happen, how it's going to lay out our future, and what's going to happen to us. Instead, I'm here to express my concerns, but more importantly, I'm here to express my fears. I've lived in Kalamazoo my entire life, and I'm extremely grateful to be able to call this place my home. Every day I find myself amazed by the things this beautiful city has to offer, and we are continuously making plans and creating programs to better this amazing community of ours. From all the programs we've talked about here today to even already institutionalized programs such as the amazing gift that the Kalamazoo Promise is, we are constantly creating a prosperous future for our youth. However, and I say this with despair, we are depriving our youth of a future for these programs to thrive. It's beautiful to see the small sustainable plans going in place, and while it does spark some hope in me, it's not enough. In the past 2 years, I've only seen the timeline of our ability to take action get shorter, but the destruction and consequences of our lack of action grow greater. I used to be excited to have kids, but now I question if it's even ethical or morally right for me to bring them into a world that I don't even know will sustain me for much longer. And while I know that sounds morbid, I'm not the only one that thinks this. Many of my peers, as well as my educators, have expressed the same fear of what their future will look like, not only for themselves, but for their children. By not doing anything, we have only excited this problem. And by ignoring it, we are only destroying the future that we have for this place that we call our home. I stand here today to advocate and express the need for this resolution to pass so that we can sustain this prosperous city and that we can take the first steps in eradicating what is the destruction of this climate crisis from destroying our entire future. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ron Kramer. I'm a resident of the city. I've been doing research on and writing about and teaching about climate change for 10 years now, and I've come to recognize that we truly are facing a climate crisis, that we are in a climate emergency. I would just like to remind us all of that old, I think it's a wise adage, that we should think globally and act locally. And of course, we're definitely acting locally. We heard many, many wonderful things that are happening concerning the environment and the climate crisis here in the city, and the climate action plan that's going forward. We're looking to see that implemented. But we also need to think globally. We know that the only way this problem is going to be resolved is at the national and the international political level. So we've got to somehow build that political will. We've got to create that greater social mobilization. And by joining together with over 1,000 other communities, I think we have to create that political will. We have to create that social pressure that will lead to action at the national and international level. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. Tom Small, longtime resident of Kalamazoo, a member of the city's sustainability team. I'm here to speak on behalf of some communities that lack a voice, not because they don't have voices, but they are voices that we don't often hear. We don't take the time to listen, and maybe we don't understand the language in which they speak. I'm here to speak on behalf of the invertebrate species of the planet and of our backyards, of our community. Statistics suggest rather strongly that 75% of the biomass of the invertebrate insects has disappeared from the earth in the last 40 years. I'm here to speak on behalf of the plants. Science suggests, again, that if business continues as usual, 40% of the species of plants, trees, wildflowers, crop species, will go extinct within this century and probably earlier. I'm here to give voice to the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of species, the local populations of which are vanishing. Climate change is not the only cause, but it's going to be a prime cause and is going to exacerbate the extinction problem that we, the human species, a dominant species in many ways, and yet dominant to our peril, absolutely depend upon. So we are faced with a crisis. Those communities that I tried to give voice to here are faced with a crisis. And that crisis is in large part made by human beings, by me, by all of us. So let us join together in a declaration, and let us begin tonight with a new resolution. A resolution to preserve and foster as much as we can of those creatures to whom I try to give voice tonight. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission on this item? Seeing no one. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Cunningham, supported by Commissioner Cooney, I believe. We are in discussion. Commissioner Anderson.
So I appreciate everyone's here tonight, and as a matter of fact, I think we should have great resolutions at the end of every agenda so we can have a packed house to hear about our good work. Oftentimes, we don't have great attendance at this meeting, and I think this is what democracy looks like. So thank you. I also just want to give a little context here, is that in addition to the work on the commission here that you see commissioners doing on our regular business meetings, like what we're having tonight, every one of the commissioners up here gets a list of other meetings to go to on other evenings, to be a liaison or a voting member for other groups that are kind of part of the citizen infrastructure, community infrastructure that feeds back to the commission here. So every one of us participates in multiple other entities that are doing this work more quietly behind the scenes. One of those entities, which has been around for decades now, is the city's citizen advisory body called the Environmental Concerns Committee that I happen to be liaison to, and I have been for really over a dozen years. And Denise and I shared many, many meetings together when she spent many years on this advisory body. And an interesting thing that we noted together is that some years ago, in fact, not so long ago, I am not a voting member, I'm merely a liaison from the commission to those meetings, is that there many times was not a quorum in the room of this citizen body to vote and have actions. We literally did not have a sufficient number of people attending the meetings to do the business. And I am proud to say that now there is a waiting list. In fact, we have cut off taking applications for our ECC, our Environmental Concerns Committee, because there is now, for obvious reasons, but I guess better late than never, now there is a great deal of interest from people in Kalamazoo who want to participate. That's a great, great problem to have. So it is the work of this particular body to accept input, as we have, from citizens in the community and take some time thinking about that. So this resolution is coming to us as a recommendation directly from this citizen body, which is an advisory body to the City Commission. We ask this body, do this work for us and bring your thoughtful recommendations to the city commissioners. That's exactly what's happened here. This is a resolution brought to us by our citizen-populated body here at the city called Environmental Concerns Committee. I appreciate that work that's done here at the city. And in addition, one of the reasons that I was interested in being the liaison to this committee years ago, when I first started on this commission 14 years ago, is that I come with a history of great interest in this. And I actually spent many years of my life living off the grid. And as a matter of fact, when I came back to Kalamazoo here after having those experiences, one of the first things I did, because I was a contractor at that point, was spent my time gutting a condemned house, which is the first place my family lived here, super insulating it, doing the kind of work that I had been doing as a contractor, which was building solar homes down south, and turned that condemned home into a super insulated, passive solar gain home here in Kalamazoo, which is where I raised my family in the Douglas neighborhood. I had great passion for that work and was so happy that when I got in the commission, that's what I could do, is begin to participate here on Environmental Concerns Committee. I'm also, as a builder, very much oriented to the practical and to the real and to the measurable kind of work that we can do. And I really appreciate that Mark came up here from Better World Builders, has been doing that kind of work in town with, I think, the beginning of a long list of very practical, effective, real things we can do here in Kalamazoo that are going to make a real difference. And this is, you know, a resolution can come and go, but it's the work that you do after that that makes it real. So I appreciate that. So that all said, here we are now. With many, many people here interested, and all the good work that's happened over the years. I appreciate, Denise, the work you're doing now, bringing this back to the ECC for, I think, a moment of recognized and visible change here in Kalamazoo in terms of our intent and our focus and how we will be incorporating that into all the great work we're doing, which we got to experience hearing about just some of it tonight in our first 2 years of Imagine Kalamazoo. So, thank you. I look forward to voting for this resolution, and I appreciate your efforts to this point and look forward to the good things we can do together.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other comments? Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you so much, Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition and the Environmental Concerns Committee, for bringing this forward. You are eloquent and you are powerful in what you said to us tonight. The sign in the back says it all. Act as if your house is on fire, because it really is. We are in a state of emergency. We are in a crisis, but we don't act like we're in a crisis. And some people might think, well, what does it matter? Well, in your resolution it says that 1,400 cities, and as Tyler pointed out, representing 285 million people, think it is important that we speak out. As Ron Kramer said, we need to create the political will. We need to put the social pressure to make this happen, to take the actions that we need to take for the sake of our young people, for the sake of our living creatures, for all of us. I am reminded of something that Robert Kennedy said one time. Every time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Thank you for giving this opportunity to us to take that step of hope and to show our great resistance.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Cooney took a portion of what I was going to say, but to Dr. Kramer's point about the political will, this body is going to, I'm assuming, pass this resolution unanimously, which is something that we frequently do when the community brings a social justice, a progressive resolution or piece of policy to us. But if we want to put pressure on the legislature or the Congress, we need to be, I mean, the title is Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition, so Denise, maybe it's a conversation with you to say, there's other jurisdictions within Kalamazoo County. What are your plans to bring in this resolution to them? Because it can't just be the liberal Kalamazoo City that is taking this action. We got to get everybody on board, and I'd be more than happy to help you with those efforts.
Other comments, Commissioners? Hearing none, I'm having a little problems with my throat right now, so I'm just going to say thank you for everyone coming. I look forward to voting yes on this resolution, and if my voice will allow me to do that. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Griffin?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott?
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
And I am going to allow for applause now. That wasn't for us, that was for us. And I want to also, now that my voice is working a little bit better, I want to thank all the young people for coming out and being with us tonight and letting us know your passion, your interests. We appreciate you. We are now at citizens' comments on anything this evening. Please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Hoffman, and I live in the vibrant and energetic north side of the city. I work for Open Doors Kalamazoo and am one of the co-chairs of the Isaac Housing Task Force with my partner in justice, Toby Hannah Davies. Thank you to the city commissioners who stood up at the Isaac public meeting a year ago and pledged to support the Isaac Housing Task Force ask. City Commissioners David Anderson, Don Cooney, then Commissioner Shannon Sykes, and Jack Urban all stood before our crowd of more than 300 and answered yes to this question. Do you commit to supporting a fair housing amendment that prevents source of income discrimination and to supporting fair chance law and that prevents blatant rejection of renters without considering their individual circumstances? And we believe that Commissioner Cunningham also wanted to come but couldn't be there, but we felt your resounding yes in the spirit. So with that, we are deeply grateful for your pledges of support in word and in spirit. We are also very grateful for a growing partnership between Isaac, the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, the Fair Housing Center of Southwest Michigan, and the City of Kalamazoo's staff as we prepare to present a housing equity ordinance once the new commission takes office. We especially want to thank Commissioner Patrice Griffin for her vision and leadership on her continued efforts to create a housing equity ordinance. At the Isaac public meeting a year ago, Patrice Griffin spoke as a member of the Isaac Housing Task Force and asked this: did you know that if you got rental assistance from the Vote Yes for Kids millage, voters passed 3 years ago, a landlord can turn you and your children down because the millage is part of your source of income? Did you know that if you were evicted years ago, a landlord can turn you and your children down without considering your circumstance? What if you had a serious medical emergency? What if you lost your job through no fault of your own? What if you were the victim of domestic violence, the greatest contributing factor to evictions? We as a community have a universal responsibility to address and mitigate the barriers created that continue to perpetuate the housing crisis in our community. Thank you, commissioners, for your openness, for your courage, and for your service to our city as we together fight for justice, equity, and housing security.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Toby Hannah Davies, and I do live in the city. And I am co-chair of the Isaac Housing Task Force, along with Stephanie Hoffman, who is executive director of the Open Doors Kalamazoo. All of you know that we have a homelessness crisis in our city. And you are all working hard on ways to increase our stock of affordable apartments and houses. But did you know that even if we built 3,000 new affordable units or 6,000 new affordable units, we would still have a homelessness crisis? That's right. We would still have a homelessness crisis because so many people are turned away from housing, from vacancies. We badly need a housing equity ordinance that would prevent so many people from being turned away. A housing equity ordinance would help end homelessness by reducing discrimination, increasing protected classes, eliminating the blanket policies so applications will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And it would also improve enforcement by creating a Human Rights Commission. Isaac, we want you to know, has now grown to 31 member congregations and organizations. We are now 26 congregations from a wide array of faith traditions, a campus ministry, Wesley Foundation, and 4 member organizations, the NAACP, El Concilio, Church Women United, and Moms Demand Action, Coalition for Common Ground. All this diverse group of people of faith are working together in order to infuse with love the policies of our local governments. And we're counting on all of you who will be on the commission after the election to be faithful partners in this work to build the beloved community in Kalamazoo. Please work for a strong housing equity ordinance. We also want to invite all of you and everyone in the community who cares about social justice to come to the Isaac Issues Convention on Tuesday night, October 29. Everybody present will get to vote on what issues Isaac works on next. It is Tuesday, October 29 at Westminster Presbyterian Church on Helen Street near the airport. Doors open at 6:30, and the very engaging process of the program will be at 7 o'clock, and it's free. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Shalana Lewis. I live in Kalamazoo in Vine neighborhood, and I'm also representing the Truth Racial Healing Transformation work at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the policy that was just mentioned by my 2 partners that we've been working with. And I'm really going to just share with you a little bit more about how we arrived at this partnership and some of the work we've done. So it's been, I'd say, almost 2 years, 2 years in December, since the City of Kalamazoo, the Department of Civil Rights, Isaac, and the Fair Housing Center all came together with the the grant that was mentioned earlier, the Government Alliance for Race and Equity Innovation Grant. We've been really in partnership to focus on how do you look at the data and the issues that are required for reporting, but also come alongside community efforts to make sure that we're all on the same page and working with the same understanding of the issue. So really talking about getting to deep equity, as it was mentioned before. And so under that, the work of the TRHT and this GARE grant is how we came to be in partnership. And you all probably know this, it will be in the analysis to impediments, but we worked on focus groups, we did a survey, we also looked at available data and really engaged the housing community of providers and nonprofits. Some of the key things that we found on our survey, over 50% of Black people who took the survey said that they themselves have experienced housing discrimination. That's major, and that's just the kind of tip of the iceberg in terms of what data that we collected and we're looking at. And we also know that a large majority of at least housing choice vouchers are families of African American descent, and same with our homeless population. So we have a lot there. And we know that also from that survey alone, but also from research that evictions and conviction records are a huge barrier for housing, especially for African American Black folks. So we kind of know that this is an issue anecdotally and research-wise. And so this is really how we came about. What are some of the solutions that can really get at this issue? And at the time, working deeply with Isaac and Patrice, who was just a resident at the time and a housing advocate, and also a property manager, kind of came into the mix of our partnership. And so we've been working on what does this policy look like for over a year now in partnership. And I know that the analysis to impediments is in the final stage. We're also working on some public communications that will highlight for community in more plain language what some of these issues that we found are. But through the process, we consulted with an organization called the Policy and Research Action Council, Poverty and Race Research Action Council, I'm sorry, DC-based firm, and they consulted with us for over a year, including the city staff, and highlighted some really, really great best practices, both in New Jersey as a state, Washington, D.C., and Montgomery County, Maryland, around source of income protection and the impact that it can have on local communities. We also consulted with the ACLU, looked at the Department of Civil Rights, of course, Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids have similar policies. And so they really highlighted for us the importance of having robust adjudication powers within a strong fair housing enforcement community, and also having kind of either a civil rights or human rights mechanism that's on a local level to help really ensure that these policies are effective. And so that's part of what we're working on with the policy we're putting together. I also just want to say we've done tons of work in engaging already. We think of over 2,000, close to 2,500 people have been engaged, so I want to give you all this quick list that we compiled of who's already been in contact with us about this, including landlords in partnership with the city. And also, we are going to a conference, a future housing conference.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Davis, and I do live in Kalamazoo. To our mayor, our vice mayor, commissioners, and all tonight, I am the executive director of Isaac, an interfaith organizing network that deeply believes in collaboration. For over a year, Isaac has been honored to be a part of this team connected to the GARE grant received, already mentioned this evening. A collaboration of very different institutions is not often done, but it's so necessary and it can be so powerful. We are truly appreciative to all of the city staff and our valued teammates in this work with us, Minister Dorla Coleman Bonner and Vanessa Collins Smith, who have been at the table with us from the very beginning. And we are so grateful that all of our partners continue to stay at the table. Isaac was extremely grateful and excited that the City of Kalamazoo resourced us to hold focus groups or listening sessions around housing inequities. Isaac's engagement team then participated in historical and cultural competency training that would prepare us for this work. Our team, during data collection with Dusty Jepkema, held sessions in various locations such as Ministry with Community, Senior Services, CARES, El Concilio, which was conducted in Spanish, Isaac, and the Disability Network, some of those most impacted. During a full dinner or lunch, we engaged in deep listening. We asked about their housing journey and what brought them to Kalamazoo. We asked about semantics around their neighborhoods or homes. We asked what obstacles and impediments continue to impact their housing. We heard powerful stories. Rightfully, there was emotion, there were tears, there was frustration, and there were themes that emerged for very different people with very different situations. One particular session, more people showed up than expected, and we were nearing capacity. As I turned, I saw an older African-American gentleman who was without a home, pleading with staff at the door. He said, "Please, please let me into this room. I need to be in this room. I need to be here. I need this." The older gentleman did not know exactly what we would be talking about, but he had an urgency and he also had a hope to share his voice with the belief that something could change around his housing situation and experiences. In my remaining time, I would like to share a couple of verbatim lived experiences from our listening sessions. The first one, what's your past got to do with it? You know what I'm saying? Everyone on this earth has made mistakes, convicting us of what we've done in our past. I am a man of 65 and you are still convicting me. I got out in 1993. They are still convicting me. And the second quote, my experience looking for housing in Kalamazoo is not a good one at all. I've cried and I've been really mad at the fact that everywhere you go, there's an application fee. You don't even know you're denied. They don't write you back. You know because of the silence. They want you to make 2 or 3 times more what the rent is. It's crazy. And that was a focus group grandmother. The lived experience of our community members who are currently facing housing impediments, their voices and their faces will stay with us as we continue to work together to ensure all people are held as beloved. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello. Thank you to the commission. I'm Carolyn Peshek, and I'm a resident of Portage, and I'm also a landlord and a member of Isaac. I'd like to speak very briefly in favor of the changes that you're hoping to make in the housing policies here. I own a property, and the last time I rented it, I had a mother call up who had a voucher. And she said in a rather timid voice, "Do you take vouchers?" And I said, "No." Frankly, I had no idea what a voucher was. I figured it would be a lot of paperwork, and I just didn't want the hassle. I also had some preconceived ideas about what kind of tenant they'd make, simply because they had a voucher. I'd worked very hard to rehab this house, and it was nice. And I didn't want it to get trashed. However, I didn't know the reason that she was so timid was probably because everyone she'd called so far had already turned her down. I had no idea what the effect of another turn down could have on her. Now I know better, thanks to Isaac, and I won't turn somebody away who calls simply because they have a voucher or simply because they were incarcerated for a crime many years ago, or any of the other reasons that are included in the legislation, I can see how the legislation would actually work in the hiring process to not ask about or not do a background check until you've had a chance to meet the person, then do the background check, and then talk to the person and get their side of the story, find out if it was because of domestic violence or whatever, or how long ago it was. So, you know, and if they're, let's see. So the next time I want to find a tenant, obviously I'm not going to evict the nice tenants I have right now. I will advertise to groups that help the hard-to-place renters and choose carefully among them. Look at that first person, check their references, see if they look like they will be good tenants, and then make my decisions on that basis, not on the basis of only what I see in a background check before I've had a chance to talk to them about it and, you know, make a decision based more on, you know, their references, maybe work history, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Emily Hazel. I'm a resident of the Stewart neighborhood and also a member of the Isaac Housing Task Force. I'd like to lift up a concept described in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is still as relevant today as it was when it was signed by the United States government in 1948. I quote, "Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination. Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for their health and well-being, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social services." End quote. So with this sentiment in mind, which describes protection against discrimination and the right to housing, the Isaac Housing Task Force is so grateful to the City of Kalamazoo for explicitly including housing affordability in the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 strategic goals. The shared prosperity goal speaks of abundant opportunities for all people to prosper. Access to housing is crucial for prosperity, and one of the stated metrics is housing affordability, especially for cost-burdened renter households. In addition, shared prosperity speaks of coordinating services and resources to support people returning from prison. I remind the Commission of this because the Housing Equity Ordinance addresses some of the barriers experienced by these populations. So I will voice the notion again. Please adopt the Housing Equity Ordinance, as we currently do not have housing policies that give people a fair chance and help to reduce inequities. The Housing Equity Ordinance aligns with Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 and will help our community continue on the journey towards providing all with basic human rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and all the commissioners. My name is Andrew Chaponda. I am coming before you tonight, both as a property management professional and also as a housing advocate. I'll explain why. Between the years 2005 to 2011, I was employed by one of the largest property management companies in Kalamazoo, managing their properties. My job was to screen applicants for apartments. My job was to take the residents to court. My job was to assist the sheriff when he comes to evict the tenants. Fast forward, 2012, I joined a local organization called CARES, where I am the housing specialist and housing advocate. I have the privilege of serving 10 counties of Southwest Michigan, and I'll tell you, the housing story is the same. Kalamazoo is worse just because of the larger population of this city. I am coming before you today with the hindsight of this experience, working on either side of the desk, where I used to assess people and now I sit with them and advocate for their housing. This has been a wonderful experience for me, one that has actually shown me how housing is a critical issue in our city. As I stand before you today, I had two clients who wanted to apply for apartments. We provide them with a voucher that allows and pays for 30% of their rent. The landlords simply looked at them and said, we don't take vouchers here. You don't make 30% here. Please we do not accept your application. I'm also telling you, because I also attend several meetings with all the voucher providers in our beautiful city. The story is the same. You are aware, a few years back, we passed a millage that allows families with school-going children to have support for their housing. For the first time ever, we have had more money collected through this millage than went towards housing. What was the problem? The families were not being approved for housing. The impediments that you have heard my colleagues outline here are real. We are seeing this every day. You are seeing this every day as you move along the streets of Kalamazoo. The people that you see out there all have income, but they have one thing in common. There's something on their background that our landlords don't want to touch. These are hard-working families. We heard earlier on from Momentum that they are starting to get people with issues on their backgrounds back to work. Those people will not have housing. Don't be fooled. They will not have housing under the current situation where housing is assessed by the landlords. We are saying we need our people in Kalamazoo to have a fair chance to get into housing. Nobody is saying that landlords should take wholesale everybody, but we need the people of Kalamazoo to have an opportunity to raise their families in a house that they can afford. This whole idea that they only want people who make 3 times their income is not comporting with reality. There is a huge department of the federal government called HUD. That department is there to support housing. How then can we have HUD and at the same time not have housing in Kalamazoo? So I'm appealing to the commission, when we bring these ordinance along, please pass the ordinance, make Kalamazoo livable for all its people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please. Good evening.
Hi. I don't know whether I'm the last person to speak or not, but it's been a long meeting. Anyway, I'm going to tell you about another crisis that not too many people know about it. I'm sure that there's people in here that have never ridden a bus, a city bus, or haven't for a long time. But you know that the management and the bus drivers and the passengers are all at odds with each other, and nobody will listen to anybody. That the behavior of the person of 2 people last week is what brought me here. But I'm afraid it's a situation where the bus driver has been told, do not discipline or talk to these people, reprimand them in any way. If that kind of behavior is going to continue with people that can scream and holler at each other and do anything they want, and the bus driver will not do one thing about it, I'm not interested in riding the bus system, and I know of other people who feel the same way. There's a piece of paper of the whole story of what the incident was, I won't go into it now, that was left up at the office just a little ways from here. And if you want to read it, I'm sure you can get a copy of it to find out just exactly what happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Seeing no one, we are at commissioners' comments. Commissioner Griffin.
Start, I guess, by, did we go back?
Yes.
Hello, I'm Jody Dozman. I live in the city of Kalamazoo. I'm homeless. I thank Isaac for the representation tonight. It gave me confidence. Like I was at the last meeting and I was talking about the cameras not working, covering up criminal activity. Anyway, they work, but they only work for management, it seems, because when criminal activity is going on, management has no concern to it. I've had an EMS person where I had a sock in my laundry. I only had 2 sets of clothes. I know when I put my laundry in, it was just fine. When I come down to get my clothes, I noticed there was an extra sock. Oh no, a sock missing, because I do get my clothing tore up and missed from the laundry. And an EMS crew was in there with a lady who had been pushed down by this other lady. Anyway, taking her out, and Judy just gave me no help with the cameras and seeing who did what with the sock. I mean, and these people were right there when I confronted them in front of it. Like I said with Western, they didn't take an interest in what I was saying, but on the corner, on a Sunday, there was an accident on, what was that, Drayton Stadium. Okay, so the guy who had the double-edged blade pole that could have been seen by the banking outside cameras, if it's possible, had the pole outside. I mean, I had a fishing knife, and they took me right into incarceration. He has a double-edged blade pole. Things are going on between me and Nevy at Fred Upton's office where I'm missing stuff, and Heather and him are right in the hallway after he's been told to stay off my hallway or stay away from me, who I've had Sherry from another apartment complex witness me saying it right to him. What are you doing up to my house? You've been told to stay in my apartment. You've been told to stay away. I mean, I'm like, these people are on Social Security. They're handicapped. They're on Social Security. They can only have $2,000 in their account before their money's taken away, or they have to spend the $2,000. Is that enough for an attorney, for a class action attorney, for all that? And witness tampering. I would have a lady say, yes, things are going on, then a couple days later she'd approach me and be scared that, and change her stories. I mean, some people stuck with their stories, gave me videos and cameras and information, and others kind of got scared away from it, is what I'm believing. Stuff moved in the apartment, and I'm used to that. I've turned into the papers. I mean, it was a tagging game. I would mention stuff, and they were really upset with me. I tagged those ladies. I was on them, and they were on me both ways. And to sit there and think, if that kind of criminal activity is going on and they're moving knives and kitchen knives and walking around with double-edged blade poles, what's going on with suffocation issues or illnesses and medicine missing or something going on with something in your drink? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Griffin.
Yeah, I just want to first thank city staff for giving us that great presentation of all the work that has been done. I think a lot of times we don't realize how much work is getting done, how much work there is left to be done, and that was a great check-in point. I also want to say to the point, thank you, Isaac folks, for coming here tonight. As many of you all know, social justice issues are very near and dear to my heart. Housing is one of those things that are very, very near and dear to my heart because I have personally experienced a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the gaps in this community that a lot of the people have as well. So, you know, over a year ago, right before our community had a surge of a housing crisis, you know, my family had experienced some issues with homelessness, and I knew that even if we built all of the units, it still wouldn't make a difference if we didn't knock those barriers down. And it's been a lot of work partnering and working with these great organizations and doing all of this amazing work, and we still have more work to do, but it continues to ring in my mind listening to Josh Hilgert talk earlier today, listening to Luke Kay talk earlier today, and we invest and we put a lot of work in to these communities, and we talk about equity work, and just to know that we have been removing barriers, but we need to do more with removing barriers so that people can actually access this housing. We put money into programs such as Momentum so that people can be equipped to have employment, but then they live in hotels. That's not okay. And it will continue to be this way until we change this framework by which people in our city are able to live. And the issue is it's not city of Kalamazoo specific. This is an issue nationwide. But there are things that we can do in this city to make sure that people have opportunities. So while we're investing in the programs, they can actually build on their lives. And so I am thankful for the work that has been done, for the work that's going to continue to be done, and looking forward to ordinances such as these, such as community benefits agreements, things like that, that are really going to have an impact on our community, and we'll really see a shift, because there's so much work that's being done, but there's so much more that we can do, and it's great to know that organizations are out here working on this. City staff is working on this, and we're all working on this to make sure Kalamazoo is a good place for everybody to live. And so there is no one size fits all, but there's absolutely things we can do to move us in that direction of real equity. We're not inventing the wheel here. There's other communities in Michigan who have already done these things, and so for us to follow suit would be amazing. I also want to just lift up the senior population too, that also has a lot of housing crisis. I think a lot of people feel it's just families and younger individuals, but that's not true. We have a large senior population that is on fixed incomes, and it's incredibly difficult for them to get into housing. And so we've got to shift the dominant narrative of who is homeless, why they're homeless, and some education in there. So that we can be a stronger community. And also, it's important to have that enforcement piece there. We know from the Fair Housing Act that was signed into law over 50 years ago that as a country, we're not too much better off than we were then. And a lot of that has to do with the enforcement mechanisms that are and are not in place. So we have that responsibility to do more with that on this city commission. So I want to switch from that a little bit. I want to say happy birthday to my son. He will be 16 on Thursday, so I'm excited about that. And I also want to say happy birthday to my grandfather, Sam Brooks, who I absolutely look up to and helps to make me who I am. And before I am done, as this is our last commission meeting, as this commission, I really, really want to say thank you to you all for giving me this opportunity to be up here with you. It's been amazing to serve this community in this capacity. It's been amazing to be part of the legacy of Commissioner Cooney and Mayor Hopewell. I have learned a tremendous amount from the two of you. I probably will never be able to really put it into words what it has meant for someone who is just a resident of this community, who really had just an idea, just visions, just wanting to do more for my community, having the opportunity to sit at the organizing table, organizing committee of Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo and learn how the city works. And then having the opportunity to be appointed. You two have given me so much. Like I said, I'm not going to really be able to put it into words, but it just means so much to me to be a part of this legacy. The work that you guys do for this community, that you have done for this community, the impacts will live on, and I appreciate it in a way that hopefully I will be able to repay you and just move forward with the work and all of the great things that you all have inspired me. So I just really want to thank you. I know firsthand how much you all do. The public, it takes a lot of beatings a lot of times, but I know for a fact where your hearts are. And the community, we will miss you. We will absolutely miss you. And I know that you will not be far. I know that your heart is still with this city, so I know that you will still be here, but there will be a great void in this city. So I want to thank you both for your work, and look forward to seeing what you all do in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. I wanted to, I think we'll have an opportunity yet. Is that accurate? Yeah, we will, to have another meeting, right? To speak in a more extended way than I guess I'm going to tonight. I mean, obviously, I think the community, our newest commissioner, my experience has been unparalleled working with the two of you, and I will go on and on about that at our next meeting. But I just wanted to say one thing tonight, which I'm just picking up on the quotes that are often brought here or either memorized or written down by Commissioner Cooney, which are many times written by, I guess I would say, community poets, taking important words and visions and turning them into something meaningful. And that is just kind of related to this, the climate crisis, and some young people here tonight talking about not having hope, perhaps, or having experiences of hopelessness. And I think that's why this quote from Robert Kennedy was so important to read tonight, is that, acting does send forth a tiny ripple of hope. And I think that is the source of hope, and that to act for the right reason is going to be create a situation of hope where people can imagine a good future for themselves, working together to do that. So thank you so much for bringing that up, and we got to hope and go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cooney?
So first of all, I want to thank the people from Isaac and Commissioner Griffin for all the wonderful work that they have done on this housing equity ordinance. I am disappointed that I will not be able to vote for that because I'm strongly in your corner on that. And Commissioner Griffin, you're going to do fine. You're doing wonderful already. But I would like tonight to pay tribute to our mayor, who has been up here for 16 years, 10 of them as mayor, and he has poured himself out for the city. And he has touched the lives of so many people. You can see his priorities from the people that he brought before us tonight. He is constantly looking out for those who are disadvantaged and marginalized. What we didn't see tonight was his deepest passion, and that is his passion for young people. So, Mr. Mayor, I want to say thank you, and we honor you for all that you have done. So this is my last business meeting after 22 years, and I want to thank the people of Kalamazoo for giving me this opportunity to serve them as a city commissioner. It has been a labor of love. I have been able to work with wonderful people, and it has been a noble cause. I ran for the City Commission because I believe that local government can be a vehicle for justice and for helping those who are most disadvantaged in our community, and I still believe that. In fact, I believe it's the most important work that the city does. President Roosevelt said one time, the measure of our success is not if we do more for those who have in abundance, but whether we do enough for those who have too little. That's our challenge. So I'm leaving the City Commission, but I'm not retiring. I want to make that clear. As long as I have breath in me, I intend to work to help people everywhere achieve the human life that they deserve. So as I leave tonight, my thoughts are what Senator Kennedy said when he left the Senate. The work goes on, the hope endures, the love still lives, and the dream will never die.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Urban?
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. I'd like to return just for a moment to the birthday party that the city staff put on for us earlier about what has been happening in the last 2 years, the first 2 years of the 10-year master plan. It was really nice to see a nice summary like that presented, but you know, after a long meeting, so much of that just drifts into the background and we're going to forget about it. So I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you that all of that material still can be accessed at your convenience at imaginekalamazoo.com. And I urge you to do that, because what's really neat about what the city staff is doing is actually intentionally implementing a master plan. That's almost unheard of in a city. That is really something new, and we're starting to take it for granted. So remember that. This is a big deal. Now, I'm going to turn to another subject about the housing equity ordinance attempts to get that brought before us. I'm a little bit surprised that it's taken this long to actually have this come before us in a form that is acceptable to everybody. And from what I can gather, one of the impediments to actually having an ordinance in front of us right now is basically in broad terms, human rights have come up against property rights. That's what we're dealing with here. Property rights, as they say to anybody who's an aspiring lawyer, property is 9/10 of the law. That's what they mean. But human rights are what we live. That's the life we live in, you know? That's where the fulfillment and suffering and joy come from, is the human rights, the human aspect of it. So what I hope to see is an ordinance that has everybody's input on it. We've actually educate not just only the stakeholders, but the public at large about the importance of having available housing to everybody who wants it in an equitable way. And also realistic enforcement. We all know that if we pass something precipitate that has a lot of enforcement in it, the landlords can find a way to beat it. You know, if I were a landlord and I wasn't approached in consulting about it, and I had a word I didn't understand about it, I would probably have some resistance and probably find some way to get around it. So it's really important when we do this work that we come up with an ordinance that has the maximum amount of public buy-in from all stakeholders. The only reason I can use to justify why it's taken that long to get to where we are is that we're trying to come up with an ordinance that really works. And I expect to see that, and soon. And I hope we'll all celebrate and make it come true as we live that ordinance afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, I just got a few words. One, I want to echo some of your sentiments in regards to our colleagues, two of the greatest Kalamazooans in history, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing. And I know I'll take more time in our next meeting to honor you guys. But I also wanted to just highlight, it is a blessing that individuals gave us a chance to serve in this capacity. and I do not take that for granted. And that's something that sometimes you just need to hear it in a different light to re-recognize it. So just wanted to highlight that. Also, I had a fun event that I was able to attend last Friday called Dancing with the Stars at WMU. And those who were able to attend and support, it was amazing. Part of sales pitch was me against Commissioner Moore, and I'm proud to say that I did not get last place, as we were as we were tied for last place. So, but a lot of fun. Once again, amazing things going on in Kalamazoo that I was honored to be a part of. Just a random highlight. The first ever award was given to Bobby Hopewell as the first place winner of that Dancing with the Stars. And I thought that was pretty cool. He let us know about 13 times that night. But once again, like I said, it was really fun, a lot of fun, really great activity in the community. I'm always looking for ways to be engaged, and that was definitely a unique highlight. So,
thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so just quickly, there's candidates in the room, candidates up here. It's what, 2 weeks out. I hope that you all have better canvassing weather than we did 2 years ago. That was terrible. But no, seriously, I'll be thinking about all of you. It's hard work in that final push. So good luck to you, and to Clerk Moss, for you and the rest of the team in the clerk's office. Thank you for being open on the 2nd of November. And for all of the things that you're putting forth to make voting easier and accessible to all of the residents here in Kalamazoo.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to be quick. I want to recognize that this has been an amazing meeting of community tonight. Voices and pictures and actions and opportunities and challenges and all of that is this place that we call home. This is a representation of that in so many different ways. It may not be your specific subject or item, but truly you could mold anything that we do, and all those that have come before this body and will come, into one big piece, and that's community engaging on this place and in this place. And that's what I love so much. I don't love everything I hear, but I love it when we have the opportunity to allow that voice to ring through. I'm not going to make any grandiose speeches tonight. I will save that for the 2 hours I will take on November the 11th. I will say that it's been an amazing journey. I will thank our staff for coming forward tonight and telling your story, which is ours. We certainly appreciate that. I was very intentional that at least the 2 gentlemen that I had asked to come, that would happen at the beginning of the meeting. Because sometimes what happens, and it happened again tonight, is that when individuals' issues were dealt with, they exited the room. Not everybody, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody, but it happens, and I love those of you that came for a different reason, and you are still here because this is your community, just like that item or that issue. So thank every single one of you for staying, and I appreciate those that came as well. We love it when everyone gets to hear about the work that's gone on, and then maybe find a way to connect differently to that work. That's why I kept challenging us and challenging those individuals that were presenting to tell what they need, because those needs impact all of us, I believe. So it's been an amazing night. Eric is pretty much an amazing dancer, so don't let him fool you. I was a judge, so he didn't quite get to the top, but he was better than I thought, which I might have to take some lessons from my little brother there. To all the candidates that are running, good luck, Godspeed, best wishes, hit those doors, that's how you win, and It will be amazing to see you see the results on November the 5th. I want to remind the community we will not be having a meeting on November the 4th. We don't meet the day before the election. That was a change in our schedule that when we adopted our schedule. We don't meet that day before because y'all need to, well, there's all kinds of reasons why we don't, but we will be back in this room on November the 11th, and we will welcome new folks to this dais. We'll say goodbye to a number, at least 2 of us on this dais, and we'll celebrate community that night as well. We are adjourned. Let's eat cake.